Sadistic Penguin Studios presents the At the Show podcast with Tom Yumper Garcia.
Okay, you people sit tight, hold the fort, and keep the home fires burning. And if we're not back by dawn, call the president.
And Tony Tulsa Burt.
I don't know this industry jargon, YP, MP, whatever, okay? All I know is that I cannot get a record contract. We cannot get a record contract unless I take these tapes.
It's almost time, so grab a drink, get your popcorn ready, and join the film discussion with two guys from Chicago talking movies.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of the At the Show podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Tom Yumper Garcia. And I'm with my other co-host, Tony Tulsa, man, as I call him, the Sugar Baggy Burt. How you doing, man?
What's up? What's going on, my man?
Good, man. I'm glad.
Or should I call you Miho? What's going on, Miho?
Miho. We do it with the southern draw. I'm very happy baseball's back, man. I know the season doesn't look too good for us, but it's always good to have baseball back. I've been playing baseball since I was like 5. Into my 30s, so always good to see the game. Really good seeing everybody at the tailgate yesterday and at the game. Just looking forward to a good season and fun, not playing, but fun.
Always for me personally, and this is the truth, I watch baseball just as much as I watch movies or listening to music. And when it's bad, I treat it like a cheesy movie. I sit back, I laugh when the ball goes flying over someone's head and they're missing cues, and really try not to take it too seriously, but still have a good time.
That's all you can do, especially with this season.
Yeah.
But Tone, we've had a pretty packed week, so let's get into what we've been watching this week, my man.
That's a me. And also, what were you just watching?
So what you been watching this week, Tone?
Oh, I got a couple here. First, we're going to get started here is, which I wanted to ask you is I would just rewatch it again. Did you ever see Wes Craven's Deadly Friend?
No, I have not.
Mid-80s movie with starring Christy Swanson. Okay. Really kind of an interesting movie that plays into his kind of his movies. Especially considering this is right after, a little bit after A Nightmare on Elm Street, but pretty much a girl is involved in an accident, and what ends up happening is she gets reprogrammed with a robot, and things go haywire. It's a really good hidden Wes Craven movie that definitely suggest. The second one here, The Killer Elite with James Caan and Robert Duvall. It was James Caan's birthday this week. So this popped up on HBO Max, and this is a mid-70s movie, and the reason it kind of drew my attention was James Caan does a little martial arts in the movie. I don't know if you've ever seen this movie, but if you have not, imagining James Caan doing some martial arts, it's kind of unique and awesome in its own way, and it's directed by Sam Peckinpah, who's done such great movies as The Getaway and The Wild Bunch. You ever see this one?
Did they do a remake of this film?
They sure did, my friend, with the Clive Owen and Jason Statham.
Okay. I've seen the remake.
And a really cheesy in the background De Niro with a mustache. But really kind of worth, to me, the view, just because, honestly, while looking back, though, James Caan did not think highly of this movie in his catalog, but sometimes it's okay if the actor doesn't think highly of it, because it's me who's watching it, and I enjoy watching it. But it's on HBO Max, and it's Robert Duvall is actually really awesome in it too. Get to see them both in Robert Duvall, pretty much their CIA assassins, and Duvall turns on James Caan, and it becomes a cat and mouse game. But really good movie, really worth checking out.
Yeah, man, these are two movies that, like I said, I saw the remake. I haven't seen the original, so I guess I'm gonna have to check this one out along with Deadly Friend.
Yeah,
See them. I'm a Wes Craven fan, so I was wondering, like, is Deadly Friend like kind of like They? That
Deadly Friend is a little bit like it's like Wes Craven if he did like a teen horror movie, but I know he's done, but like more of like not as scary, a little bit
Okay,
more
so watered
light,
down a little bit.
but like a little bit more of like imagine you having somebody that you care about being like they take the brain out and make it a robot, and then pretty much things go haywire. Pretty much is what ends up happening, which is what makes this girl. It's Christy Swanson too, so pre Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Wow. Wowie, wow, wow, wow.
You know what's funny is during the week I thought about that in my head for quite a few couple things, that little thing that you play there. But yeah, definitely worth checking out.
Yeah, I'll definitely check them out. So I watched 2 films. One of them is my go-to. I'm a huge fan of like history, even though this is not totally historically accurate. But I'm a huge fan of like history. I'm a huge fan of like Japanese culture. I watched The Last Samurai with Tom Cruise. People might think it's like a white savior kind of film, which it totally isn't. It's one of the films that introduced me to Ken Watanabe, who plays the samurai leader. Really I love the visuals. I love the score. Hans Zimmer's score in the film is probably like one of the best in terms of movie soundtrack scores, in my opinion. Huge fan of it. I can watch the movie like all the time. It's one of my personal favorites I watch. Um, and the action still holds up, the story still holds up. So I checked that out just to kind of cleanse the palate of what I've been watching. And then I went to go see the new Ghostbusters, Frozen Empire, last week, and not as good as Afterlife, but it's got a lot of nostalgia. My wife enjoyed it. It was like a 2-hour long movie. Has all the original cast besides, of course, Sigourney Weaver and Rick Moranis, which unfortunately, and Harold Ramis, who unfortunately is gone. But it was enjoyable. I liked it. I love the fact that Ernie Hudson has a bigger, more predominant role in these films than he did in the originals. He's kind of like he stepped up as kind of like the leader that's funding everything. So have you seen the new Ghostbusters?
No, I have not seen the new Ghostbusters. I am kicking myself that I have not. I'm a little backed up on a couple movies. Dune 2 still.
Yeah, I know.
Just saw someone else seeing Dune 2. Actually, it was our good friend Chirizi. It looked like he checked it out, and looked like he said he liked it. And it kicked me, and I go, I haven't seen it yet. And then today I was kicked myself again. You saw Godzilla versus Kong. The next one I will not miss. But that being said, I've seen the ones prior to this, and really quick, do you think the one with the Kate McKinnon gets a lot of flack, or do you think it's a pretty okay movie, or what do you think? What do you think about that one, real quick?
It was okay for what it was.
Yeah,
I'm not a really big fan of Melissa McCarthy. That's just me. I don't think her comedy, like, she's good in small doses, I think. But when it comes to like leads, I'm just not a big fan of her movies. Which is kind of funny because my wife is a huge fan of Gilmore Girls, and she's in there in a totally different role, and like it's like I could watch that. It's just like I don't know, just something about her comedy doesn't really vibe with me until in big doses, but in small doses she's good. It was what it was. It was okay. Erin says she loves Melissa McCarthy.
She did a new trailer this week, dropped. Jerry Seinfeld's directing a new movie about the Pop-Tart. It's going to be on Netflix, and Melissa McCarthy's playing his wife, and I thought that was an interesting pairing of Jerry Seinfeld and Melissa McCarthy. But back to Last Samurai real quick. I remember seeing that in college when that came out, and that's one I'm definitely due for a rewatch because, I definitely, when I saw it in the theater, it didn't resonate with me. But after I've heard since before we've even done the show how much you love this movie. I definitely is one that give it another chance because I was probably in a different mindset on that night when we seen it, and making fun of Tom Cruise was probably what was the top of my game when I watched this the first time, even though I love Tom Cruise now. So definitely give that one a rewatch too.
Yeah, and Jackie says I haven't seen any of the new Ghostbusters because I love the original so much. I just can't imagine. You know what, Jackie? The first one, Afterlife, actually pays homage to a lot of the older ones.
Yeah.
It's a good one to check out. Yeah. This one does too. These ones are actually written by Dan Aykroyd, so they do have some influence of the older characters in there.
What about the Harold? You a fan in the last movie of the Harold Ramis?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was a nice tribute to him, and
Yeah.
then it's crazy because Ivan Reitman,
Yeah,
who wrote the Ghostbusters, this one, the new one, is actually a tribute to him
yeah,
because he passed.
yeah.
And his son Jason was a producer on directed the last one, and he produced this one. So it's got some, nice nostalgia, and I think that's what they're going for. I think it's a good blend of nostalgia. Um,
That's what you look for.
yeah, and speaking of that, as we transition
Ugh,
now, Tony, I know you've been wanting to do a Roadhouse episode since since I've known you
yeah,
and you became part of the show and whatnot.
yeah.
So when we heard this new movie was coming out, like there's two people I know that love Roadhouse, you and our next guest. Huge fan of Roadhouse. Like he quotes it. You see his gifts on it on Twitter. He's a foundation piece of sports mockery, and he's also one of the co-hosts of Pinwheels and Ivy. Father Zoe, Southside Zoe, Matt Zawaski. How you doing, my man?
I'm good, dude. I've been sitting here talking with you guys while I was backstage. So you guys were talking about different things, and I was just like talking. But I'm excited to be here, man. I appreciate you guys having me on, and it's kind of refreshing to talk about something else besides the shitty White Sox. So I'm eager. I'm very eager to talk about this movie because I was really excited when you reached out to me because I mean, as you mentioned it, you knew how much I love the original one. And then the day this new thing came out, I watched it and I have so many thoughts on it. But I was like, I gotta keep them down. I texted you,
Yeah.
and I was like, I just watched it. I'm not gonna say anything on Twitter, I promise. And then I saw people like Baloney and other people having a conversation. I wanted to jump in so bad, but I kept it here. I'm ready to go.
Cool, my man. So just a little history of the little background of the movie. It's the 2024 Roadhouse remake directed by Doug Liman, who also did Swingers, Edge of Tomorrow, and Jumper. It stars Jake Gyllenhaal, Daniela Melchior, Conor McGregor, Jessica Williams, and Billy Magnuson. So Zoe, first things first, like how did you discover the original Roadhouse?
Kind of what we were talking about before we went live here. I indirectly just became a massive Swayze guy.
Mm.
And fellas, I'm going to tell you right now, I got a couple in me. We're going to have a lot of story time tonight. I was raised by predominant all women. I have a massive Polish-Irish family on the south side of Chicago. A lot of very strong women. They all raised me, and it's a lot of the reason why I am like I am. And my cousins who watched me every day made me watch Dirty Dancing so many damn times. But I was always like, all right. And then they started showing me other Swayze movies. And then they introduced me to movies like Roadhouse and Point Break. And Roadhouse just resonated with me. I was growing up in the Beverly neighborhood. I was a Western Avenue rat for all of my 20s. I was in all of those little dump bars, and I seen everything. You know what I mean? From the fights to the characters to the, every bar's got a dude in there that watches Jeopardy and hits on the bartender. You know what I mean? Like there's always like the same guy in every bar. And watching Roadhouse, like those dudes were so cool. And Swayze nailed that role so much. And the way he says line, like the way people would mess with him and they're pushing his buttons. And he's just like, be nice until it's time night to be nice. And you're just like, I want to be that guy, man. I want to be a cooler. I want to be a guy that can keep my stuff together. And then when I need to, I can handle my business. I think they do have a picture. No, they took the picture of me off the wall and it wasn't a good picture. It was like a mugshot. But anyways, we don't need to talk about that. But that night that was kind of a Roadhouse night, but that's why, man. And it just always resonated with me. Between that and Point Break, I just rewatched those movies a billion times, dude. So yeah, that's how I got to being such a big fan of Roadhouse.
Awesome, man. Awesome. I know Swayze had a big following just because of the sex appeal from Dirty Dancing. Then he did Roadhouse, and then of course one of my favorite movies, Point Break.
Hell yeah.
He did yeah, I'm a big Swayze fan.
That's a good one.
Yeah, I like.
Wait. Did you see how you just did that, Yumper? That's what happened to me. Where you're like, yeah, and he did this movie, and then you're like, oh shit, I am a Swayze fan. Yeah. That's exactly how it happened to me. You start listening to everything, and you're like, man, that dude's awesome. But yeah, Rest in
Yeah,
peace.
he totally is, man. I love him in Belly of the Beast, which is like a AMC like crime document show that he did before he passed. Uh, he was just a really good, actor, pretty underrated for
Mhm.
most part,
I agree.
but very good. Um,
In 8th grade, we got dropped off to go see the only PG-13 movie they would let us in. It was Tu Wong Fu. Thanks for everything. And we were the group we went with. Let's just say the rest of our next 5 years in school, we just nodded in the hallway. We never seen another movie together again. It's a different time to see that movie. Swayze, Leguizamo.
Yeah.
Wesley Snipes, right?
Wesley Snipes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wesley Snipes.
That's
The
another
drag-
one
that was like
rewatch. I rewatched that one. That one's probably
between that and Tootsie, that was like the
Tootsie.
first two movies where like men dressing as women were
Yeah.
like mainstream.
Mhm.
And then obviously
Tootsie's great,
Tyler Perry
too.
came around and it was like,
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna make $1 billion doing this. But yeah, it's just Tu Wong Fu. That's a throwback, man. I haven't thought about that movie in a long time.
I'll throw it
Yeah.
in there.
So Zoe, you just said how much you liked the original Roadhouse. So I have two
Yep.
questions for you. First being, what did you think when you heard them saying they were gonna make a remake? And what did you think after you saw the trailer?
When I heard there was a remake, I thought it was a joke. And then when they started like releasing, like it was Jake Gyllenhaal and all this stuff, I was like, just don't mess it up. You know what I mean? It was just like, just be cool about it, because there's no way you're gonna stop it. It's just the way movies kind of are rolling right now. It's you get an original movie every 10 movies that come out now. Everything's like a remake or a spin-off of something, and I don't mind it. I've almost just kind of gotten to a place where I've accepted it. It's like that Macho Man gift. You might not like it, but accept it. And I don't know. The first thing that popped in my head was just don't make it lame. Like, please don't make it lame. And then I saw the trailer and I got a little nervous that it was going to be lame. I was like, oh man, it wasn't terrible. They did a good job with the trailer, just how they cut it, but it did make me eager to see it the day it came. I mean, the day it came, I had a reminder in my calendar. I don't usually do that. I had an alarm set. I had everything. I was ready to watch this movie. I was pumped to come on here and talk about it. And so, yeah, I mean, that was pretty much my head going into the movie, was just don't be lame. Please just don't be lame.
What about you, Tom? What'd you think?
Will you shut that shit off? I can't listen to that crap. It's got no heart.
Pretty close to that. I mean, you got a movie that, again, it's got such a Brad Wesley, Ben Gazzara playing that role in the original. I mean, who are we? Conor McGregor wasn't even the bad guy supposed to be playing that role. So it's like, again, but I agree with everything that Zoe said. I was not looking forward to it, but I will say that Jake Gyllenhaal being in the movie, I think, made it watchable. Whereas the rumors from the beginning were going to be Ronda Rousey. I don't know if you remember
Yeah.
that. And that was, my stomach started to turn pretty heavily. So again, yes, it's yeah, I would agree.
She was in
Forgot about
Expendables
that.
4, man, wasn't she? Yeah, Expendables 4, Ronda Rousey.
Yeah, I completely forgot about the Ronda Rousey rumors. Oh my god, that would have been so bad. This show would have been in a whole different direction. Let me tell you, fellas, if I had to sit here and watch Ronda Rousey.
I know, yeah.
Oh my goodness.
I've come to accept that Hollywood is just gonna do remakes of
Yep.
when they when we did the Big Trouble in Little China episode, that was in talk, and then there was a lot of backlash, from people saying why you're remaking it, and now The Rock had to step back and say, "Oh, I'm not Jack Burton. We're making a continuation of the movie." But Hollywood's just gonna keep recycling things. I mean, how many times has Halloween been recycled into something new?
That's true.
There's just stuff that's gonna keep being recycled. So I have to accept it and went into it. When I first saw the trailer, it looked interesting. And for this film, I went in with the open mind for it. But Zoe, what'd you think when you saw Post Malone as a fighter in the first scene?
So 100% hand up, no idea that he was in this movie. And so I turn it on and I'm like, I'm glued, I'm ready to go. And they're fighting, and I was like still getting my drink and everything ready to go. And I go, is that Post Malone? And I just kind of started smiling. And You know what? I like Post Malone as an actor. He was in that movie. I watched it. It was on Netflix, and he was like the main bad guy for a while, like the first half of the movie. And I think Jamie Foxx was in it. I can't remember the name of it,
Mhm.
but he's not bad. He's not a bad actor, and he's got the tattoos, and he's kind of got the aura around him where he plays like a scumbag white dude perfectly. You know what I mean? And I'll give him credit. He got in shape for this role. He sold that fight scene in the beginning. It wasn't bad. Like I thought it, I was like, okay. It wasn't bad at all. And he's not a bad actor whatsoever. So good for him, dude. Like, I guess, I don't know, the guy drinks Busch Light, so I like him. But it's just like, yeah, fuck it. Why not? Sorry, can I cuss on this show? I should probably.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
Okay,
okay.
I just want to.
A
Sorry.
lot of the clips we'll be playing tonight have cussing. in
Yeah,
it, so, yeah,
sorry. Yep. Sorry.
What about you, Tone? What'd you think when you saw Post Malone?
Again, like he's in Wrath of Man, the Guy Ritchie movie with Jason Statham, and
Yes.
again, he could play the role that he's called upon. I think in this movie, he is very far from what the problem is in this movie to me.
So when I saw him, I started laughing. I'm like, because I didn't know it was him at first. I'm like, was that fucking Post Malone? And then he didn't do bad. Like I thought he did very well.
Yeah.
But on your point, Zoe, of him being a Busch Light guy, to kind of go off a little subject, he actually had I'm a nerd, I'm a tech nerd, so I watch a lot of like computer building and stuff like that in my free time. He actually had one of the more famous YouTubers called J2Cents who does custom buildings for PCs. That guy built him a PC called Bullies and Beer, which is basically like he made like guitar strings for his computer, so it's water cooled with like beer looking fluid, and there's a Busch Light can in it, which like looks awesome. Like it looks really nice, like the way he did it.
Sick, dude.
Yeah, he presented it to him, and like Post Malone's like, I fucking love it. Like, and I've heard like nothing but good things of how good of a person that he is.
Same. And I give him the benefit of the doubt a lot. And then there was that whole thing where like people were like scared for him because he kind of looked a little heroined out. He was kind of really strung out on stage and stuff. And like people were like, oh, he's not enough or whatever. He's like, no, I'm good. I'm getting in shape. And actually, now that I'm thinking about it, timeline kind of lines up. He was probably getting in shape for this role.
Mm-hmm.
And no, like I mean, he sold the fight scene, and I gotta look up what that movie is with him. And he plays the bad guy good. He has that like asshole smile, I guess is the best way to put it, where he's got the gold like outlined teeth, and he looks like a guy that's seen a drug or two up close, and he looks like, you know what I mean? And he plays it well. He leans into it, and I guess the nicest way I can put it is he plays a very convincing scumbag, even though he's a good guy in real life, but he's been stereotyped, and I think he's okay with it, and he's good at it. So why not?
Definitely.
Yeah, definitely, man. Like I'm a big fan of Post Malone. I like his music. I really like his music too.
I do too.
That whole cover thing with Nirvana, he does real good Nirvana covers.
For you country fans, he's got a big song coming out, Morgan Wallen, and people are highly anticipating that, even though I can't stand Morgan Wallen. I'll like the song though.
Oh man, we just lost our Morgan Wallen
contingent. Sorry, I'm sorry.
Numbers are dropping.
Yep.
But so you saw the first scene, like, so give us like the meat and potatoes here. So, what were your takes from the film?
I wanted to hate it. I wanted to go into this and watch it and then just talk a lot of shit about it. Like, you can't remake something that was so well done in the first place. And I do appreciate, like, if you guys, I don't know, how much spoily can I get here? I don't want to, like,
spoil away. You can spoil away, man, because it's been over a week.
I don't know if you guys noticed it, but the store next to the bookstore that girl and her dad, it's called the Double Deuce restaurant. So like that was cool.
I didn't even notice that. I gotta go back and watch that again.
You see it for like 5 seconds. When the dudes come to like burn it all down, they show it for like 5 seconds. But I don't know, like I didn't hate it. I wanted to really bad. I really wanted to hate it, but it's like it's a fun bad movie. Jake Gyllenhaal saves this movie 1 billion%. He plays this role really, really well. I didn't think anyone could pull off Dalton like Swayze, but for a modern version of it, Jake did really, really well with it. I think he played it really cool. You could see kind of like how Swayze did, like he kept his stuff together, but then he's such a good actor. You can almost see when the switch is flipped, and we all know what I'm talking about. We all have that one friend that's like cool, and then like if someone does something stupid, he's just going to put someone in the hospital, and you could see it in his eyes. And I just rewatched the movie right before I came on here to like be able to keep stuff fresh in my brain because I'm a little punchy too. But you can actually like legit see it. And I have a couple buddies that are like that, and I know that look, and he nailed that look, man. And I'm like, that's kind of crucial to this role. And he was lighthearted when he needed to be lighthearted. He was actually pretty funny at some points. Like I got a couple good, like legit chuckles, not like the chuckles I had at McGregor, which was just like, you're terrible. McGregor was just horrible in this movie. And I have, again, where I grew up, I have like over the top hard ass buddies. And in the group chat, they were even just like, this is a joke. Like the way they introduced him into the film was hilarious. The way he delivered his lines was hilarious. His cadences was hilarious. The only thing he did well, and it's another thing in my opinion that really saved the movie, the fight scenes are legit as hell in this movie. They are very good fight scenes. And like the hand-to-hand combat fight scenes, they're really good. Some of it's a little like, okay. When he punched the dude through the car window, I was like, take it easy. But overall, man, that was my vibe. And, we can get into specifics as, we have this conversation, but it's a movie I'll watch a couple more times. It's a movie where if I'm hungover or if I'm just bored or whatever, I'll just throw it on, have it in the background. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like he must work out. But I didn't hate it. I guess that's the best. That's like a super high compliment for me, especially when it comes. It's like if someone remade Snatch. Like if I said I didn't hate it, that's like a massive compliment for me.
What about you, Tom?
I'll agree with a lot of what Zoe said. I'll agree that it was entertaining. I'll agree that it was good. I wish it was called something else. Like, yes. I wish it was called like The House on the Side of the Road, and his name was Bob. I mean, calling it Roadhouse and all those little connections, I also think are cool though, because when he said that the Double Deuce was next door, even his interactions with the girl and all that stuff, just a lot of. But again, there's just isn't a whole lot that's like the original, so that's what I think. They would have been better off, but I think they did it because they could get that money from the Roadhouse title. People will tune in because it says Roadhouse over it, where if it said The House on the Side of the Road, I don't know if it would have done as well. But overall, enjoyable experience. No Patrick Swayze. Bad guy was no Brad Wesley, but I don't.
God, no.
But then again, I also feel like when people say a new band comes out with a new CD and they're like, it's not like the other one, I don't like to be that guy either. Because like the stuff with the alligator was cool. And I love like the locale. I would love to snap my fingers and be where he was this whole movie, even if I'm getting beat up or whatever's going on. Music was lacking compared to the original. That's where I think a big, to me, a difference between movie A and movie B was that the music was just so entwined with Jeff Healey in the Double Deuce. But again, it was fun. I didn't hate it. And like Zoe, I'll watch it a bunch more times. Probably never as much as the original, but I still watch it. Yes.
So you guys gave both like really, really glowing reviews of the movie. So I do not hate the movie, but I also didn't like love it at all. Reason being, I went not even comparing it to the old Roadhouse. This movie kind of reminded me of like a B movie basically, a B action movie that I'll watch.
The movie with Seinfeld, the cartoon B movie?
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry. No,
yeah, a B action movie that I'll watch, but I probably won't watch again. Like I think Jake Gyllenhaal is an awesome actor. I loved him in Southpaw. He did Nightcrawler. He was in The movie with Hugh Jackman when they're police detectives. I forget the name of it. Prisoners. Great, great actor. Brokeback Mountain was like probably his biggest role that came out.
I can't quit you.
Yeah. And then reading what the director said about this, the director said that this is one of his best roles of his career. I'm like, I don't know about that. He like saves this movie. Conor McGregor is just I know
so bad.
It's supposed to be a cheesy like bad guy, but it's like beyond that. He does the Conor McGregor walk the whole time. His dialogue is fucking horrible. I'm Knox. It's just bad. Like, and then he does that goofy smile, though. Like he like the whole time he's there. Yeah. That's basically what he does the whole
That's
movie.
pretty accurate.
The fight scenes I thought were awesome. I think if I compare it to the original, the fight scenes are actually better than the original. I think so.
I'm sorry.
I think so. It's because
you
it's
don't
more
want to know the
realistic.
next thing I want to say right now because you're really good. Never mind.
No, seriously, because it's more realistic in terms of like
they had to use CGI
CGI,
in
yeah.
this new movie, which isn't realistic. Where in the old one they use no CGI. They actually use trained.
Hey, are we gonna do a breakdown of the new one, older one later, or what?
Oh,
man?
we are. That you just said better, and I don't. That would be like me saying the new Roadhouse is better than the Last Samurai, and why would I say that?
No, I like the fight scenes a little bit more in this one. That's just me. But the music was horrible. I know. I'm just talking shit. That's what we do. But the music I think was worse in this film than the other.
Yeah.
Also, apparently, like I don't see when I did research for this though. Like Tony, like is this really a remake? Because there's like from when I was reading from the official like notes, Jake Gyllenhaal's character is Elwood Dalton, and he's the son of James Dalton, which is Patrick Swayze.
Oh.
So I guess like this could be a continuation.
Which I like. I like thinking of it like that. And then when you think of it like that, I could buy into this movie a lot more. I like continuations more than I like, well, this is a guy and we're going to try to redo this, but in this other locale where if this is his son, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, and so I thought that was
I bet you they do a sequel to this movie. What do you want?
They definitely are, dude.
The way they ended,
the ending to it kind of told that. But just like a little background on the original, peek behind the curtain, as our friend Baloney likes to say. There's no sexy Jack, you're great. The original screenwriter for this film is actually suing Amazon and MGM because, for one, the AI is what he's complaining about, and two, he claims that he has a copyright on the Roadhouse story, and Amazon and MGM actually stole that from him, so he's suing it. The director of this film, Doug Liman, is really pissed at Amazon because he wanted this to be released in theaters and not on Amazon Prime. So there's a lot of turmoil already happening with this movie being out that has nothing to do with the actual film. It's more like the behind the scenes stuff. So I don't know, maybe there could be some delays to the sequel. But I didn't hate the movie. I didn't love it. It is what it is. I'm happy people are, going and making people go watch the original, which I think is awesome. But yeah, like there's just certain things of this film that like just didn't click with me that well. Like I did think Jake Gyllenhaal played a badass pretty well though.
I just think the bad guy could have been better. I'm a huge bad guy fan, and I think
we get into that. Yeah,
the
bad guy was terrible. The dude with the pink suit. I'm glad Homegirl made fun of his stupid ass suit. But
even when what's his name snapped his neck, Conor McGregor was
how over the top, unnecessary, stupid was him getting a shave on a boat.
It was extremely stupid.
And it upset me. I'm like, what is the point of this? This is the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Well, it would have been cool if it was actually like he died right there because the guy made a mistake and he was that stupid and they just threw him overboard and a new bad guy kind of like took. But this is your bad guy. He's getting shaved on the boat while waves are going and he goes and cut. Then he gets hit. He goes and hits the cap. It's just like, come on now.
Yeah, and he wasn't like a badass at all, and then he finally gets his comeuppance when he shows up to the bar and he's like, I'd like to hear what you have to say. And I'm like, okay, let me see this dude do his thing. I think he could play an asshole, like a a entitled, spoiled kid really well.
Oh yeah,
but he's not the bad guy. Like,
well, that's it. Like,
and why didn't they ever show his
needed
dad?
His dad should have came out of prayer. We never
Yeah.
saw that. You know,
We never saw the dad.
I think
that
that's
pissed me
probably
off too.
That's probably what they're probably saving him for a sequel. And he's probably going to come after Knox for what Knox did.
Yeah, oh man, that was just aggravating shit, dude. He was such a bad. And as you mentioned, it's tough because the bad guy in the old movie, no notes. He's fucking perfect, and like he has the mansion and like all the party, and like they tried a little bit to make that, and McGregor shows up. Where the fuck is everybody? But they had the thing.
I'm famished,
and it was okay. And like, I don't know. It's just the bad guy. If you're gonna remake Roadhouse, and again, I've agreed with everybody in the comments on what you guys said. They should have called this something else. But if you're gonna remake Roadhouse, you have to have a bad guy.
It was just even the henchmen. Some of the henchmen, is missing some things like this.
What the fuck are you talking about?
You don't have the right temperament for the trade.
You asshole.
Can we talk about who they casted for these henchmen? They had what's his name, Bob Menery, the guy that does the stupid sports videos, as one of the henchmen. The guy that does he does the voiceovers. He was one of the Nelk boys. He shows like, I get in the car, I got a gun. It's like, what? It's Bob Menery. Why would I ever take that man seriously? What is going on right now? And that there was a couple times in this movie where I was just like, this is making this bad. And seeing Bob Menery was one of them. Pretty much everything McGregor did. And the bad guy sucked. Now, one thing I did want to say, I want to let you guys talk and everything, but to your point, Tony, I'm a big music guy. I love music is a very, very big thing. I didn't hate the music in this movie. I agree it's not as good as the original, but I like the way they showcased the bands at the bar. They gave them a couple minutes each. And so I guess a little bit of background on myself. I went to a very small college in the swamps of Florida. I worked at a bar that was that was not a great casting job either. But I worked at a bar called San Ann's Liquor and Lounge. Everyone called it Ralph's. I was the most northern person any of these people have ever met. They called me Yankee because I talked too fast. And I bartended there for 4 years. It's the only bar in town. The biggest pickup line in this bar was, do you want to see my boat? And I had to tell all these college girls that were from up north, you don't want to see his boat. Because when you're in the middle of a lake. Anyways. So this movie being set in the Keys really resonated with me. I have good friends in the Keys. I have a guy that's he does the boat tours, the fishing charters and stuff like that. Like I've been to Duck Key and Marathon Key and all these keys. And this movie hit home a lot with me with the music part of it, because those are the guys that were the bands at the bar that I bartended at. The old retirees with the slide guitar, and they're singing from their heart. And there was this band that I always used to go see that called Uncle John's Band. And it was 6 burned out hippies playing Grateful Dead music, but they were awesome, man. And so I think from a personal standpoint, this music did resonate with me, and I was appreciative of it because for better or worse, I worked in this bar, the bar in the movie. So
I think, let me rephrase, like the music was awesome. I think like the tie, like I guess when you say it like that, it makes sense to tie into the Florida locale. Yes. Makes sense just as much as Jeff Healey made sense in the original one, because it was like in the middle of, I think it was in the South somewhere, right? And that's in. So I definitely, I said it looks beautiful there, man. So you got to live in a beautiful area. Like I'd get like I said in the very beginning, I would have got my butt kicked here if.
It's interesting
because it's better than Northwest Indiana.
It's some of the nicest people you'll ever meet, but then you get some of the good old boys come in there, and that's when. And the dude that's from the show Mayans,
he was like the JD Pardo.
Crushed it, man. He played that role.
He did a good job. Did you
not
watch
like
Lion?
Gyllenhaal. Oh yeah, but
That's a great show.
It's a very good, and that's another one that had high expectations because you're backing up Sons of Anarchy, and he nailed that role, and he nailed this role because I've dealt with that guy before, like in real life. Like I've the jean jacket with the cutoff sleeves, A+ wardrobe on this show or this movie as well. But
the best is he plays the dad of Vin Diesel in them in the one of the newest Fast and Furiouses, is like the flashback in the beginning. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Oh yeah, he does. I remember, and he's like, yeah, okay, and he like yells at him, and he's like kind of like a hard ass dad.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's good stuff.
But that's why this movie, I think I didn't hate it as much as I wanted to, because I lived. I mean, I'm not trying to sit here and say I was Jake Gyllenhaal in this movie, but I bartended.
I could believe it.
I was actually more the kid with the black eye and his arm in a sling. But there was things missing from this movie, though. If you guys want to get into that, because
but before we go into that, you need to do a for shorts Zoe's bar stories, just for your shorts for Sports Mockery or Pinwheels.
I mean, we could talk about karaoke night. There's this, we'll say, healthy woman that came in every karaoke night. She was younger too, and she had the tight jeans and the boots. And every karaoke night, she would sing Black Velvet. And every time she would sing it, she would make me, pull a chair from the table and put it on the stage, and it turned into a show, if you can use your imagination there. And she was so sweet, and everything was so nice about it. But like every fucking week for 4 years, dude, karaoke night. She did not miss a karaoke night, not one. But stuff like that, man. I mean,
20 regulars, man. That's how it goes.
She paid for my books because she was there all the time. But anywho, go ahead.
No, I was just going to transition to what you just said. So what do you think was missing from this film?
There was no Sam Elliott character.
Mm-hmm.
I was waiting for one of his buddies to show up. I know they said he killed him in the MMA ring, but and he's supposed to be like this big loner or whatever. But like throughout the entire movie, watching this movie, I'm waiting for Sam Elliott to show up, not him himself, but like that character. And it just never happened. And it bummed me out, man. There was no Sam Elliott, no buddy. So that was the biggest thing to me.
What about you, Tom?
Honestly, it wasn't, I mean, for what it was, probably more, I would have taken more JD Pardo and less of the bad guy that they try to give us. Maybe made him made him the son, maybe, and made him in the whole movie. Because he was a lot more of that stupid tripping over himself, keeps getting himself in these. They needed more humor in I think in the script. They needed a little bit more. Like in the original, Dalton said quite a lot of humor. Everyone was cracking pretty much funny lines the whole movie.
So many quotable lines too.
Yeah, excellent quotable lines.
But I agree with you, Tony. They needed to be more intentionally funny.
Yeah.
Now there was a lot of shit in this movie that was hilarious, but it wasn't supposed to be funny.
Yeah.
Like I definitely.
I think too. They kind of really tried, like, reach to be funny too. Like the scene that pops in my head is when McGregor's banging his head against the fucking piano, and he's like, "Oh, this piano's out of tune," and I'm like, "Who the fuck's gonna say that?" And they're getting their head bashed against the piano. Like, it's just like, don't force humor. Like, just let it come. It's already a cheesy movie. Like, and
natural humor.
Yeah.
What got the original movie?
About a cocksucker isn't personal? No. It's two nouns combined to elicit a prescribed response. No wonder if somebody calls my mama a whore. Is she?
Like stuff like that, like stuff where it's like you're being a smart ass and you're being funny because you're being honest and stuff like that, which there was a little bit of that in the movie, just more.
Yeah. And
no blame.
I just want to reinforce that I really think Jake Gyllenhaal did a good job in this role.
He did.
He did. He especially being as playing the role of a former MMA fighter.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen Southpaw?
Oh, I love that movie.
Yeah, so it's like basically he's gonna transition from boxing to MMA. So I knew he was gonna be good in it.
I personally haven't ever seen him in a bad movie.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen him in lesser good movies, but nothing that's terrible off the top of my head. I'm sure you could maybe point something.
Yeah, no. I don't like his stuff. I'll watch his stuff. Like I said, like you said, Zoe, I think the missing of the Wade character kind of like brought it down. I can see why they didn't do it because they didn't want to be a total complete copy of the original remake wise, but I didn't like the way they named the damn bar Roadhouse. To me, that was stupid. Yeah, you didn't have to name it the Double Deuce. You could name it something else, but not Roadhouse.
And I can tell you right now, no bar in the Keys would ever go with that name. Every bar in the Keys has some kind of nautical name to it. I mean, a lot of that's the other thing about the Keys. A lot of the bars in the Keys some of them are clothing optional. That's another story. I'll tell you real quick. So the first time I went to the Keys with my guys, I'm a Chicago kid, never been down there, whatever. We show up, I'm pumped, ready to go. And a buddy of mine who's local, he's like, "Hey, yeah, man, we're all gonna go to this bar. Why don't you go up there and get us a table, and we'll meet you in there in a minute." I went up there and I go to the third floor. The third floor was the closing optional floor, and there is just dong as far as the eye can see, just hanging over bar stools, just dong. And I'm just like, what the fuck?
What is going down?
I laughed. I stood there and laughed because I thought it was hilarious for like 10 minutes. And then I just walked, not 10 minutes, like 5 minutes. And I just turned around and walked down, and they were all just standing there waiting for me to laugh. But that was my my first experience in the Keys.
Great story.
Yeah. Pelican Pete's Pizza and Party was the alternate name for the Roadhouse.
That's actually a more realistic Keys bar name. 100%.
Pelican Pete. I like it.
Yes.
Yeah, and what Baloney was saying about Joaquin de Almeida, who plays the sheriff Big Dick, he's actually a good act. Like I liked him from Desperado. He's the bad guy in Desperado. He's Bucho. He's also in Fast Five. He's the bad guy in Brazil. He's not a bad actor. It just was not. It was a total miscasting of a role for him in this. Like, but then again, you had the Rat Catcher 2 as the love interest, Daniela Machir, and that was, to me, was weird too with her. So I don't know.
He told him to call him Big Dick.
Yeah.
I thought it was a joke, but he was dead ass serious. And then other characters called him Big Dick throughout the movie. I was like, what is going on, dude? I didn't think that was a real thing. I'm sorry, fellas. I lost it.
No.
That completely lost me. And I'll give Jake Gyllenhaal credit because he delivered that line great when he's like, "I'm not going to call you that." Yeah. I was like, all right, that's good. But the writing in this movie, man, like
it was, I mean, let's be honest, the previous one wasn't like masterpiece like Quentin Tarantino dialogue, but this one was just like a little cheap. I did laugh a little bit.
It has Quentin Tarantino dialogue. No, I'm just kidding. Good.
I did laugh a little bit when Jake Gyllenhaal sets the bomb and he's like pressing the button and then he just starts laughing because it won't go off. That kind of made me chuckle because it's like, oh, that could really happen. But yeah, I mean, they're both movies are so out there in terms of like the the plot, like just even the fact that like, oh, how many people really know bouncers? Like bouncers have a reputation, not just area wide, but nationwide, like Dalton,
right?
So I did think that was kind of a cool upgrade in terms of the story. How now you know who he is because of what he did and what he's doing on the underground, than like a cooler bouncer that everybody seems to know because he killed the guy.
I disagree.
Call me Big Dick. I'm sorry, I can't get over. And he said it seriously, and then like, why did they make the nurse's ex-boyfriend a cop?
Yeah, that made no sense.
Boat, like,
that made no sense either. And
I know since it's Roadhouse, he's supposed to have like a back and forth, a love interest that is there you go. That that's a nurse. I just didn't really feel that chemistry at all. Like, it was
forced chemistry.
Yeah, I wasn't really feeling that. And then like she drives out to the middle of the ocean and finds this like super dope sandbar that no one else is at. That would never happen. There'd be 20 billion pontoon boats and Jimmy Buffett blaring somewhere. But that part was off-putting. I'll put that like with this movie.
Also, it was strange too, like that they only had 2 bouncers.
Yeah,
like they had
him and like 100-pound kid.
Yeah, and he recruited the kid that could box, and so it was 3 of them. And like the part where like the kid's getting his ass beat, and he's sitting there like just watching him, smiling. I'm like, what the fuck? But yeah, there's only 3 bouncers, and unlike the original, he had his own team. But I'm like, I mean, come on, make it a little realistic where you have more people helping him out. But I guess the patrons helped people out because you can see them when they went after Knox in that scene. And the one realistic thing I did see about it was when they were fighting and that guy just goes bar fight and starts beating the shit. I've seen that in real life several times in Champaign and in the city, so that's realistic, like mob mentality.
Yeah, and definitely, especially, and I'm sorry if I'm going to keep harping on it, but it's just so relatable. At Ralph's, that's what they call the bar. It was Santa and Liquor and Lounge, but at Ralph's, a lot of the fights that weren't driven by someone's, significant other were about the music. And especially, again, this was the only bar in this town, and it was a lot of college kids mixing with a lot of Southern locals. And they would play country, and then these kids from New York would be blaring, rap and the jukebox, and then a fight would always break out. And so when that dude stood up and he's like, quit playing this shit, play some real music. And then the other guy told him to shut up. And then they started fighting. I was like, okay, they nailed that, because that happens almost every night in a Southern bar. Like that was super relatable. I mean, yeah, that one was good. And the mob mentality stuff was good. And I think we need to break down the McGregor role, because everything about this guy, what a clown, dude. What an absolute clown. Like, I just can't get over to start him butt naked, jumping off a balcony of someone who I'm guessing is her husband was out there, and Riva Darche. He says it so cheesy, and he walks into town on the phone, butt ass naked, and then walks up to the dude because he likes his coat and takes his coat.
Yeah, I understand that, but like if they're just about film nerd going to character development, like if he's supposed to be like this badass dude, why the fuck is he running away from some guy that he's cheating on his wife?
That's true too. I know.
Like that's what I didn't get. But and then like they cut to him just burning down the whole fucking store as he walks away, and I'm like, okay. And Baloney's completely right here. McGregor crashed every car he drove in this movie. We stopped cars by crashing them. That's kind of made me laugh. That's true too. He was driving like 100 miles an hour down the highway.
He stole like a what do you call it? A driver's ed car.
Yeah.
What is going on here? Oh man.
Yeah, his dialogue was really bad. Like Conor McGregor's a badass, fighter, but just like in terms of his acting, like his facial expressions were horrible. Dialogue was horrible. Like, oh, there's something wrong with you. Me too. Like, so just like shit like that. Like, I did find it cool though that his real tats were actually covered up, and those are all fake tats on him that they put. They showed them like a background video of him getting the tats put on, and he's just drinking his coffee. And the line he says, the most notorious bartender, most notorious bouncer, he calls Dalton, which is kind of funny because his name is Notorious as a fighter.
Oh yeah, I didn't put that together, dude. Okay,
but as far as that, like he's more comical than he was a villain.
The golf club scene was the most over the top dumb shit I've ever seen in my life. Have a smashing good time, and that was just brutal. But he can't deliver lines. Like we've seen in our lifetimes a lot of like former wrestlers and even some MMA guys who can transfer into film, and they can play this role, and you're like, oh shit, he's okay, good, and Conor McGregor was not it, man. And it being 2024 and the internet being what it is, he is getting properly clowned for it. Like the TikToks, the Instagram stuff. Like he's already become one of those things you can do on TikTok. The shit, like the graphic you can have where he turns around and goes, "Where the fuck is everybody?" And he knows how to fight. He sold the fight scenes. The fight scenes were good. It's just his dialogue was so bad. But I do want to bring one point up. For people that watch a lot of movies like you two and myself, there is something that has always been one of the funniest things in action movies of all time. And that was how Steven Seagal ran.
Oh, yeah.
Steven Seagal running is probably one of the funny. Now, rewatching it before here, I rewound it a couple times. Conor McGregor running is pretty fucking funny. It's not
up there
Seagal level, because I don't think anything will ever be.
That's good.
The chop hands. I don't think anything will ever
he runs
be
like
Seagal level. Like his hands go limp. It's hilarious.
Oh yeah,
it's up there, folks. I'm gonna put it top 3 because if you watch the movie once, you probably don't even remember it. There's like 2 little glimpses when he runs, and it's absolutely hilarious. Like I need a Seagal-esque scene of him chasing someone to watch him run for like a good 5 minutes because I will need a new pair of underwear because I will laugh so hard. That got me. I just want to put that out there. That got me.
I'm sure he'll have one where he's running another film. Like
if someone else puts him in a film after that role, they're doing it. They deserve everything that comes their way.
It happens, man. You know it's gonna happen. He's gonna, and it's kind of funny. You said like he's getting memed and everything. Like he is kind of like that's his kind of shtick of getting memed because I remember when he fought Mayweather and he was doing those punches in the middle of the ring, like doing the uppercuts or whatever the fuck he was doing, and people made him have like ropes and like they're like, what the hell is he doing? He's just one of those guys. I'm pretty sure he doesn't give a shit what everybody thinks about him. So I don't know. I just thought his acting was horrible. You know, the whole I'm famished and he starts eating the fucking sandwiches. Like that was like, what the fuck is going on? Like who put
everything he
said?
Like, literally everything he said was just eye roll. Like,
and he does it with a smirk. Like that's why I'm like, what are you doing, dude? But the fight scenes were great. But with him, but just I don't know, man. Splice a Seagal, McGregor, Apollo Creed running TikTok. Oh,
that would be really good. That would probably go viral.
Yeah, and Baloney's right. Amazon's going to give him a spin-off show on off this character. I think the character's probably going to be in a sequel because the ending.
Yeah, that's true.
Like they put it in there for the ending.
That's true.
But closing thoughts on this, gentleman.
Watch it a couple more times for some laughs, but I'll put on the original 100 more times before I might watch this one.
I agree. My biggest fear was they were going to make it lame, and I don't think they did that. I think it is entertaining. I think I'll probably watch it a couple more times. Like I said, I sit in this room all day. I got a big TV here. I'll throw it on in the background, and
good background movie. I will give it that. It's a good put it on in the background. It's a good background movie.
The fight scenes were good. They did a good job. It definitely didn't have Terry Funk. The writers missed, man. I would say the writers missed. There was not enough intentionally funny. There's not a lot of quotable lines in this. And the only lines people are quoting from this movie are McGregor's because they're so bad. And I think they did a decent job casting. They did a great job with wardrobe. I like the music. I mean, we're nitpicking here, but this is a film show, so we can be nitpicking.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, I think they did okay. And when they do eventually make another one, because the way this ended, they're 100% making another one. Because I'm thinking, I haven't seen the numbers, but I got to imagine Prime made a good chunk of change off this. Doesn't seem like it was very high budget.
The reason this one got remade was when I was doing research for the show to go with the original. The original, when COVID happened, the original was one of the most watched streamed movies in 2020 and 2021. So, not counting all the airtime I got on TV, on USA, on TNT, at late night, because that's how I discovered it. But that's probably what propelled it to be remade as a moneymaker. So I'm sure they're going to make another one of this one. I have no doubts about that. What'd you think of the character Mo before, the guy who he breaks his arm is like, "Oh, hey man, how's it going?"
The kid?
Yeah, the
black
kid.
eyed kid?
Yeah.
So this is another weird thing I'm gonna go off, but I just got done watching all of Fargo. I've never watched Fargo before. And I don't know if you guys remember in the latest Fargo, he plays like a deadbeat trying to be golfer for the cop woman. And I think I was too, how do I want to say this? I just saw him in that light the entire time. I couldn't get that part of him. And then as someone that played collegiate golf and still plays golf, he has the worst golf swing I've ever seen an actor try to pull off. And I don't like him at all. Like it just really bothered me. And that kind of killed that character for me.
So
and
Luke,
he wasn't funny, dude. Like he should have been comic relief. That right there was that guy should have been comic relief, but he wasn't. He sucked. So
shout out to the Bookstore family. Bookstore and the Killer Keys is a bold business decision. Yeah, especially when they're talking about a tree named Fred or something like that.
Yeah, in a mini mart on the side of everything in Florida's highways, but that was weird. That was weird.
Yeah, Luke. I just love the fact that you didn't like the character Luke because he had a bad golf swing.
Oh man, rewatch it. Watch the last season of Fargo. It's like the first or second episode. He like has a simulator in his garage. I mean, I just bought my 3-year-old his first golf club today, and he has a better swing already. Like it is a brutal swing, and he's like, "I'm gonna go pro," and then he does the swing, and it's like, "Get the fuck out of here, dude!" It's almost like that one clip of homeboy throwing a football that he gets clowned on all the time. From that, I forgot the name of the movie or whatever, and like the guy was getting clowned so bad he had to like make a public statement, like, "I know how to throw a football. There was a cameraman in my face, so I had to do that arm action." This dude's golf swing. I'll find it, Yump. I'm gonna text it to you because it is so bad. And I couldn't shake it. I could not shake that, and it ruined the character for me. But kind of going full circle here to Tony's point and my point earlier, there was no real intentionally funny lines, and he could have been a great comic relief role, and he wasn't. He sucked, and he was a punching bag.
Yeah, it was kind of a letdown with the side characters. That's what I think kind of fails this movie. Like even Arturo Castro, who plays Mo, the kid that I guess he's supposed to be Tinker, like the humor with Tinker, and he kind of reminded me of Buddy from the Ant-Man movies. What's his name? He's from Chicago. Tone, you know what I'm talking about. He was in Crash.
Perfect comparison, because I know who you're talking about, and I think that's exactly how I thought it was too.
What the hell's his name?
When he's like, "Is that your bike's outside?" And everyone's being a hard ass. He's like, "Yeah, that's my bike. It's the red one." Like he was the funniest side character out of anyone in this movie, and they didn't really use him a lot.
Yeah, he just leaves, and like that's what I said. Michael Pena, when he
yes.
When he breaks his arm, and then he's like, "Oh yeah, hey man, how you doing?" Like that was like, but they could have expanded upon that character. I don't know. Maybe I'm just nitpicking too much, but I like me personally. Like you guys say you will watch it again. I probably won't pop this one in. If it's on, I'll watch it. Like if it's to throw off background noise, but as it's something that I'll continue rewatching, no. But I go through a lot of B movies, so it's a B movie. I wish it was named something else. Then maybe I think that kind of takes the watchability out too. That's called Roadhouse. But if you guys haven't seen it, they're watching. I know we spoiled some stuff there, but definitely give it a watch and let us know what you think at the show. Let Zoe know at Southside Zoe. Zoe, where can we find you? Plug out your stuff, my man.
All right. Pretty much it. At Southside Zoe or on Wednesday nights, you can find me here on StreamYard for Pinwheels and Ivy. Half Cubs, half Sox show. We try to talk about baseball, but it usually diverges off into so many topics I can't even name them all. But it's a good show. We have a lot of fun. The comment section is always a lot of fun. We try to be as interactive as possible. And yeah, man, that's pretty much it. Southside Zoe. But before we wrap it up, I want to jump her, Tony. Thank you very much for having me on. It like I said, it's nice to get on a show. about something that I'm passionate about that's not baseball. So I appreciate you guys having me here, and I'm just glad Roadhouse didn't suck terribly.
Nah, Zoe, you have like we talk movies all the time, so I know like you came up with what was the movie that we watched, the baseball movie? Everything but
everybody wants some.
Yeah, everybody wants some. Yeah, that you introduced me to that, which I really liked.
That one's great.
Yeah, so you have some good little gems. So we'll definitely have you on again to do something. Maybe a deep dive on something that you want to go into. We can just have you on for the whole show.
Yeah.
I can do 3 hours on Snatch.
Very awesome. Very, very awesome. The first time when I think it was about a year and a half ago when I saw that you liked Phil Collins, I said, me and this guy, we're gonna get along. We're gonna get along great. And then Roadhouse, and then here tonight. Great time, man. Thank you for joining us.
Absolutely, guys.
Thanks a lot, Zoe.
Just let me know. And I like that it's on Friday night because I can actually drink while we're doing the show. I don't drink on school nights, so I don't drink during the baseball show. But yeah, thanks, guys.
Thanks, Zoe. So our guy Southside Zoe from Pinwheels and Ivy and Sports Mockery. Be sure to check them out. I've been watching Pinwheels and Ivy, I don't know, since when they had Nuke on. That was like, what, 5 years ago? It's been a long time watching that show. Those are my guys over there. It's a lot of comedy on there. Then you got the NASCAR Minute with Mitch. And they just had a new guy, Tommy, who's pretty funny too. So be sure to check them out. A lot of in-depth baseball talk. A little different than most of the baseball stuff that we listen to now. But thank you, Southside Zoe. Really appreciate it, my man. So Tony, we kind of touched on going into our next topic, which is the actual Roadhouse film. So I told you, like, when I first saw this, heard of Roadhouse, I happened to be watching it on the USA Network up all night. That's how I discovered it. I forget the girl's name, but she used to say up all night. So that got me into Roadhouse. I saw, I was like, what is this? And then I heard Sam Elliott, Miho, and it just made me laugh because I know somebody who talks just like that. And he always said Miho, and it made me laugh because and there's people like that. I know that did the Southern draw with that. So when did you first discover Roadhouse?
I first discovered Roadhouse, like a lot of the movies, walking in and watching my dad watching it on TV. And I'm a very reactive, like, movie watcher. Like, especially when I was a kid, I'd watch a lot of people's facial expressions while we're watching a movie, how they react to certain parts, and then to try to understand, like, what is the funniest, what is the coolest. And of course, a lot of scenes in this movie that I shouldn't have been laughing at or watching at an early age. Immediately, I'm like, this is awesome. This is great. Honestly, I'm not going to lie to you. When I think of the first time when I'm watching, a sex scene I shouldn't be watching, man, I'm thinking of that scene when he walks in on her, and when he walks in on him on the break, he's like, I'm on my break, stay on it. I remember being a young kid thinking about that scene more than I should have when this movie was done. So it's like, there's a lot that goes into this. What it's grown to me more than anything else is it's become like, you're right, it's no Quentin Tarantino, and I know that, but what it is it's this piece that you could just put on, and it feels very safe for some unknown reason. I don't know why. Because maybe it's because of Swayze's jeans on the front cover of that right there. It's just real tight and snatch and feels safe,
Yeah. No. Hey, man, Patrick Swayze was like a hunk, man. But
I know, but that's not why. But it was more of actually, Kelly Lynch at the end, when they're making. Which, real quick here before we get off, before we get no. She's married to Mitch Glazer, I believe is his name, and I guess for laughs still, Aykroyd and them will call
Bill Murray,
and then you'll probably talk about it later. We'll call the house, and they will make jokes. It's not just Murray; it's a couple of the guys. A couple of the different Saturday Night Live vets will, and when the scene is on TV, and ask him if he's watching it when his wife, because they weren't together at the time. But
yeah,
just a lot of good stuff, man. Real great movie.
For sure, my man. Let's just transition right into, my friend.
Let's go.
Development.
Sure.
my thoughts, I use the technique of positive visualization.
So, where to begin, my friend? The script was written by writer R. Lance Hill, but he actually used a pseudonym for this under the name David Lee Henry. He's known for writing the movie The Evil Men Do, and also another movie, which was what kind of funny that Zoe brought up, McGregor and Steven Seagal running. He wrote Out for Justice, which I thought was pretty hilarious. Hill was inspired by his trip to Dalton, Georgia, and a local bar he passed through. He said that the place really left a good impression on him, and he named the lead character Dalton as a tribute to the town. He was writing for United Artists, and it was picked up. This script was picked up by powerhouse producer Joel Silver, who had just finished Die Hard. Silver has self-proclaimed he makes action films for teenagers. If you don't know who Joel Silver is, Predator 1 and 2, Lethal Weapon series, 48 Hours, Demolition Man, Assassins, Royal Must Die, the Matrix series, countless others. Probably one of the biggest producers in action in Hollywood history. Also great one-liners, which we'll be getting to in a little bit. The script was 140 pages long, which is very long for a script. So once it was picked up by Silver, they started looking for a director. Silver had been eyeing director Rowdy Harrington to direct this film. Harrington had just finished off writing and directing the James Spader film, which is actually another undercut good gem, Jack's Back. Have you seen that one, Tone?
Yes, I have. Again, as you stated, very, very under the radar.
And then Herring, if you guys don't know, would go on to direct such classics as 1992's Gladiator, which is the best Gladiator in my opinion. The Stick Up, A Murder of Crows, and then another movie I think that doesn't get a lot of recognition is Bobby Jones' Stroke of Genius, which I thought was pretty good. Have you seen those?
I've not seen The Stick Up, but I did like your Gladiator comparison. That did make me smile.
Yes, me and Brian S, Magnificent Stan, Dennehy, yep, we're huge fans of Gladiator. Actually, our good friends from the 108 Beef Loaf. I always message him when I'm watching it, and he cracks up because he's a big fan of it. But yeah, I would love to do a deep dive on that film one day. That's a good one. But as we go on, so he wanted to get Harrington to direct the film. Harrington, however, didn't like the initial script due to the length. Again, it was 140 pages, and feeling it was just too broad, the story wasn't connecting. And he initially told Silver he was going to pass. So when he told Joel Silver, "I'm passing," he tells Uproxx magazine the story. He said, "Joel Silver called me because I was going to pass and said, 'Would you come down and meet me? If you don't do this, I think you're talented. I have other things going on.' So I said, 'Okay.' He sets up a meeting at midnight. They were shooting Die Hard on a lot at Fox. I met the whole bunch of guys, Bruce Willis and everybody, and McTiernan. Anyway, Joe and I talked about it, and he said he understood my concerns about the material, and that's why he wanted me to do it. I told him, what? I told him, you know what? I will do it." So basically, he bring them down and them seeing the stars, like, hey, it's kind of like they say the story of Pat Riley, how when he got LeBron to come down, he flashed his rings on the table. So to get him to come to Miami. That's what Joel Silver did. Like, dude, look what I'm working with. Come down here.
Come on down.
So getting him to do it. So when he actually went to go meet the United Artists chairman at the time, this is how big Silver is. Like they went to go meet the United Artists film company. So he met Joel Silver and he met Tony Thanopoulos, who was at the time was the United Artists chairman at the time. He told the story. He said, "We go in, sit down, and Joe says, 'Tell him what you're gonna do.' I did a couple minutes on what I was going to do with the script and the stuff that I thought was really going to be big hit scenes, why this picture should be made, and all that." And he said, Tony Thanopoulos just said, "The script's too long." And of course, I agree. Joe slid the script all the way across this long table that Tony had and said, "Take anything out you want, but when it's a bomb, it's your fault. What do you want? A hit or a bomb? Choose now." That's like a total, like, just putting your balls on the table, like, yeah, this is what I'm gonna do, man.
Sure is.
And the rest they say is history. So Harrington agreed to direct the film. He had the backing of the studio, and he had Joel Silver as his producer. The next thing was to find the casting. So they're looking for their Dalton, and Dalton is utterly a singular Texan take on Bruce Lee. It's basically he's an all shucks kind of way of a Gibb, a teetotaling Tai Chi practitioner who chain smokes. At a time when action movie heroes were generally muscle bound, giants who impaled bad guys on pipes. Come on, man. Dalton was human. He's a human guy. He was kind of a regular looking guy, and that's what they're kind of looking for to go with. I thought that was kind of interesting how Dalton was just a regular looking guy. And I think that's kind of what adds to the appeal and mysteriousness of the Dalton character in
Yeah.
Roadhouse. Silver pitched the movie to cast members by describing it in 3 words: boobs and bombs. And Kelly Lynch has confirmed he has told her that. Patrick Swayze was considered for the role due to his success in Dirty Dancing. He also put a lot of pressure on himself trying to get out of that kind of like lover boy look, which is something he wants to branch into something different, which is why he agreed to do the film, but only if he could keep the wardrobe after filming. Swayze did say he hated the mullet, and it was the bane of his existence in his memoir. Swayze had and all actors were choreographed and trained by Benny Urquidez, which is actually he holds 9 black belts. He's a kickboxing champion. He was 51-1-2 with 45 KOs when he kickboxed. Urquidez believed in Swayze so much in his talent, he wanted him to fight professionally. Now, for those who don't know who Benny Urquidez is, they call him the Jet. He's actually John Cusack's trainer in kickboxing. He's in Grosse Point Blank. He's one of the guys he fights in the school. He's also in Diggstown as a referee. He does really minor roles, but there's a great action scene with him and Jackie Chan in a foreign film where they fight. Awesome fighter and like great choreographer. Have you seen any movies with Benny in it?
Yes, I've seen a majority of those movies. Grosse Point Blake's a really good movie that doesn't get talked about a lot.
For sure, like it's a sneaky favorite of mine. So during shooting, a horde of middle-aged blonde women tried to pull up in front of the actor's trailer. It's Patrick Swayze, in a wild attempt to speak with him. So this was an issue going on during the filming when Swayze was cast. During the film's River Rights fight scene, a raft of Swayze fans cruised by, screaming at him and saying "Patrick" so they had to cut that out. And then another time, an extra who was playing a waitress was so love struck with him that she tripped and spilled her drinks on an unlucky extra nearby. So, like we said, Swayze was a dreamboat, and they had some issues when he was cast. Good issues, but so we have Swayze now cast as Dalton, and we go on to Elizabeth Doc Clay. The role was originally offered to and accepted by Annette Bening. However, the chemistry between her and Swayze wasn't good there, so she was eventually fired, which I think is kind of interesting. Like, how do you think Annette Bening would have done in this role?
I'm a huge Annette Bening fan, but also Annette Bening's got another unique kind of. I'm thinking of some other movies she's in around this time, like The Grifters. You ever see that movie? It came out, and she's awesome in that movie, and she's sexy in her own way, but just it's a different way than what I think they're calling for in this movie.
Yeah, whenever I think of Annette Bening, I think of her in The Sopranos.
Yeah, I think we're American Beauty.
Yeah, but have you seen her? You remember her in Sopranos?
Yes, but
just that little dream sequence. I don't know why. I just think it because he's like, "Are you Annette Bening?" She's like, "Yeah." That's why it makes me laugh.
Where I just think in like American Beauty when she does this voice where she's like, missed what she's yelling at her in the bedroom, and she's like, "Look at all we've done for you." Like I just think of like her talking like that in this movie. It just might not work, but
yeah, but
but she has to scream at that one scene towards the end, and thinking her. I don't know, but it's still cool though because I'm a huge Annette Bening fan. So
yeah, so am I. Kelly Lynch was already signed to United Artists at the time for a Sam Kinison film. That never happened, and instead got cast as Dalton's love interest, the sexy doctor. The thing about Kelly Lynch was she actually over-prepared for this role. She spent a month in a real emergency room and learned how to really stitch and sew wounds. This was kind of funny because the role in the original script, she was supposed to sew Dalton's wound, and they switched to her using a staple gun, so she learned for no reason. Her character is nicknamed Doc, a nickname shared with gunfighter John Henry Doc Holliday. And that's what you're going to see a lot with the information I'm about to give you. This is considered a modern Western film, is what they're trying to go for this film. And I could see now that reading this, I could see it now. So some of the characters have to do with Western history. Sam Elliott as Wade Garrett. Film was considered a modern Western, like I said, and they wanted to go with a veteran actor who could still do things physically. Elliott initially turned down the role. When Grable voice actor Sam Elliott initially turned down the role for the part of Dalton's mentor and best friend, Wade Garrett, Harrington adopted Silver's blunt negotiating style. Over lunch, Harrington said he looked at Elliott and said, "Sam, if you don't do this movie, I'm fucked." And Elliott took the role. Elliott came up with the famous Mijo line that was all Elliott improvised. Elliott would say that this role is the one he gets recognized from the most. And Wade Garrett, of course, shares the surname with Pat Garrett, the person and sheriff who killed Billy the Kid, or is alleged to have killed Billy the Kid. Brad Wesley, your favorite role, Brad Wesley. Harrington went to James Garner, and he quotes, "I was in awe of the man," Harrington said. But after Silver's pitch, in which he ran down a list of his successes as a producer, Garner responded, "Success doesn't interest me." So Harrington pulled an audible and went with the suave Ben Gazzara, whom he loved in Peter Bogdanovich's recent film, Saint Jack. His famous film was from Mask. Oh my God. I love Sam Elliott. I follow a account called Sam Elliott's Mustache.
Oh, wow. I didn't even know that existed.
Yeah, it's hilarious on Twitter. It's just like Sam Elliott's mustaches from different scenes and movies. So Gazzara will go on to say that this film was actually the one that gets the most playtime of any role he ever played on TV, which is totally true because if you grew up anytime in the 90s and even 2000s, you saw the film on TV. Brad Wesley's last name is the middle of John Wesley Hardin, who once fired through a gun through the wall into the next room of a hotel where he was killed, where he was sleeping and killed a man who was snoring that was bothering him. So basically, it was a Western guy who heard somebody snoring next door and he fired his gun through the wall and killed the guy because he was snoring. So this is all like history related. So it's funny how they basically researched this and they went with Wesley's name because of I guess, I don't know how this portrays the Old West history, but that's what they wanted to go with.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, Kevin Teague as Frank Tingleman. The Double Deuce bar owner, Tingleman, is named after lawman Bill Tingleman of Dodge City and Oklahoma. So that's why he is who he is. Red West was cast as Red Webster. And we'll get into a little bit more about Red West. He was part of the Memphis Mafia. If you guys don't know who that is, he's very, very good friends with Elvis. So that's kind of where he got his claim to fame. But I'll touch on that in a little bit. And then we get to the role of Cody. Now, when this film was casting and they got the director set, they also got an awesome music supervisor in Jimmy Iovine. I think that's how you say his name, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's a future Dr. Dre collaborator as their music supervisor. When Iovine was reading the script and he saw that they were looking for somebody who was blind to play the actual band member and lead singer of the Double Deuce, he already knew who to recommend. As it turns out, noted producer Iovine had just done a signing of Jeff Healey's band to the label.
Ooh.
And they spent time, Healy spent time with him doing their song, See the Light, in hopes that he would produce their album with them later. And Iovine's like, definitely go to get, my man Jeff Healey on that. And it's also funny that the original writer, had seen Healey in a performance in Canada at a bar, and he was so enamored with him. He's like, yeah, I definitely have to have that guy in my movie.
Gotta get him. Which
is pretty funny and cool, man. Like, I love how things work out for just random things, like when they see, they get inspired by things. Sunshine Parker was as Emmett, and Sunshine Parker is actually the oldest person on the cast, which everybody thinks everybody's so old, but Sunshine was only 61 when he was cast. Emmett, who owns the barn where Dalton rents his room, has the same first name as Emmett Dalton, leader of the bandit ring, the Dalton Gang. As you can see, this whole Western history things going around. Marshall Teague was cast as Jimmy Reno, who's probably my favorite character in the film. Marshall R. Teague was cast as Brad Wesley's evil henchman, Jimmy, because he was a professional martial artist and had been a martial artist since childhood. Now, the director Harrington wanted everybody who played substitute roles to have some martial art experience, and the reason for that is because all the actors in the film performed their own stunts, which I thought was crazy, considering for a movie in the '80s, but pretty cool. When he first met Patrick Swayze, they did not get along at all. But while working on their fight scenes and interactions and choreography, they became very close and during filming and after filming to where they were actually best friends all the way up until Swayze's passing. John Doe was cast as Pat McGurn, and John Doe is actually a lead singer for the '80s punk band X.
Awesome, man.
Which I thought was pretty cool. Also, a very unique look.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then Kathleen Winthold was cast as Carrie Ann. A lot of her scenes were cut in the film, but we know her as Carrie Ann. And then you have the great man, Terry Funk, cast as Morgan. Of course, those who are wrestling fans know Terry Funk is one of the greatest wrestlers of all time with Funk U, middle aged and crazy. He wrestled till he was almost in his 70s. Just an all-time legend in the world of wrestling. Also, he choreographed Rocky 5.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah. And then we have Anthony DeLongis as Gary Ketchum, Travis McKenna as Jack, Keith David sighting as Ernie Bass, one of his earlier films. He's only been in the business for, I believe, 6 years after when this film was made, which is kind of cool.
Well, what's upset? I don't know if it's bothersome to me because the thing is about 6-7 years before this.
Mm-hmm.
So how does he have a lead role in the thing? Well, I've read that a lot of his role was cut from this movie.
Yeah.
But he's actually in starring movies in a way more time and screen, like in the thing. And in this, he's only got like a couple scenes. It's kind of odd.
Yeah. So there's a lot of scenes that he was cut for, like even his introduction of his character.
Yeah.
When we do a film breakdown, like I touched on that a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's okay. The introduction of his character. John William Young was tasked as Tinker. And those who use Tinker kind of looks like the guy who does fucking free ad shows on wrestling now. You know who I'm talking about?
Which guy?
Brian. He does podcasts with Bruce Pritchard. He's the Alabama guy. What's his name, Brian? Help me out. I can't think of his name off the top of my head. But he looks just like him. Oh, Conrad Thompson. That's who he looks like. Look up a picture of Conrad Thompson and look up Tinker, and they look exactly the same. So Tinker is cast. Then you have Julie Michaels as Denise, who Denise is actually the love interest of Brad Weasley, and kind of like his side chick, I guess, because he's really obsessed with Doc. But Harrington described her audition when they were doing auditions for this role, saying that Julie came in an audition and she did a very clever thing dealing with Joel Silver. Harrington said she lifted up her dress and on her thigh was written "Property of Joel Silver." And that pretty much sealed the deal. Michaels herself said they were very thorough in terms of auditioning. She says there was a regular audition with the casting director, and then there was a later one with the director himself, and then the producer Joel Silver. And there was a dance audition. I had a very smart agent at the time. In the dance audition, you got to do something that's pretty fabulous. So that was his suggestion. And I had the balls to do it. So I wrote "Property of Joel Silver" on the inside of my thigh, picked my leg up, and stuck my foot out on top of his desk. And the rest, everyone blushed. It was great, Michael said. So Joel Silver was like, oh, hell yeah. So we'll do what you got to do to win a job, man. She would also go on to train with Benny Urquidez and become a stunt performer. She actually is in Point Break, and she's topless, but she beats the shit out of Keanu Reeves in that movie, which I think is kind of cool. And then we have Michael Ryder rounding out the cast as O'Connor. And like I said, all film people in the film, actors, did their own stunts, which is pretty amazing. It's kind of a grueling, thing doing your own stunts, and people do get injured, and we'll get to that when we do the film breakdown. But filming started in 1988 on a location throughout California, primarily at Newhall, Valencia, and then Canyon Country. The filming of much of the new Double Deuce was used in Anaheim's Cowboy Boogie. also later called The Bandstand, among other names, until it closed. So this film was actually filmed in 1988 and pushed back until 1989. So it could have been released in 88, but they pushed it back to later in 89. And that's our basic development breakdown. So what do you think about all the information I just threw at you, man?
It sounds like we're getting in line for an amazing movie here, and all the characters. I'm. It's awesome that I don't know if they intentionally try to do this, but they set out to get some awesome people like John Doe and Terry Funk, and they got him. Pretty cool.
Yeah, and just for small roles too, which I thought was kind of cool.
Yeah.
So I do like that they, the little stories they had with the whole Western tying thing of like characters. It's to me, it's just a little too much, but it makes me chuckle knowing that now.
Honestly didn't know anything about that until we were doing this show. So now I guess I know. If I knew a million things, now I know 1,000,010. That's what's awesome.
Yes, sir. So let's get into the film breakdown, my guy.
All right, let's do it.
See the arc? He starts down here. He ends up here. Where's my arc, Paulie?
He's good. He's real good. The name is Dalton.
That's a great line. And Brian says the only casting choice I didn't like was Swayze. Should have been Jim Belushi. I wouldn't have watched this film if Jim Belushi was in it. That's a whole other rant on this show. So breaking down the film, we go into, we have the introduction of the club scene and characters, Dalton and Frank, their introductions. The band playing is Cruzados, who plays the song "Don't Throw Stones," and of course we know them from Dusk Till Dawn. Also, Tito is actually in Desperado as well. Great band, Tito and the Tarantulas. Awesome music they did for Desperado, and they also do from Dusk Till Dawn film. Their album was, I've been listening to their album, their live album. I like it a lot. Like, I really like their music. What'd you think about that whole opening scene?
Oh, I mean, it's amazing. Again, the way the guitar. Honestly, I like this song a lot more than I like the Tito's and Tarantula song. I probably sing this song out loud to myself. Don't roll stones. Dude, it's just such an awesome song. And again, the way the title cards come across the screen, and just really, really Martin Short as Dalton. But just really, really awesome beginning to the movie.
Yeah. It's I love the way they have the girls walking up to the club. It's like the clubs are, I mean, they're still a big thing, but like back then, just like the style of it, with the music playing, the riff of the guitar playing in the background, they show the marquee, and then them going into the club with the band like rocking, everybody's dancing around, and you see the scene of, which makes me laugh when I rewatched it again today, like a guy puts $100 bill on a table and a girl takes a knife and stabs it, and he fucking picks her chair, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Like, then he challenges Dalton, and Dalton comes out, tells him he was gonna fight him outside after he cuts him, and he just basically leaves him there behind his wall of bouncers. And it kind of just introduces Dalton as this badass, that you're nothing, you're nothing but this an idiot, and he just walks out. And we see, basically, Kevin Teague coming in and telling him, I have this place called the Double Deuce. I came into some money. I'm looking for the best cooler around. And his first response is, Wade Garrett's the best. And he goes, Wade Garrett's getting old. He goes, doesn't mean anything. He's still the best, which I think was kind of like, I love that dialogue. Like, I'm good, but this guy's better. Kind of paying homage to his mentor. And he basically quits, and we see him tell his boss he's quitting. $5,000 a week. He pays all medical bills, which he agrees to, and that was a shitload of money back then, $5,000 a week. He gets in his crappy car, drives it, and picks up his Mercedes Benz, and he drives over to Jasper, which is where the Double Deuce is located. We then cut to the Double Deuce. One of the things that always cracked me up is the owner's walking in, and it says, to fuck, for a good fuck, call this number. And instead of wiping it off, he changes to, for a good Buick, and puts the number.
remember, again, this is one of the first scenes I just remember my dad laughing super hard at, and then even, like, my wife, when we watch this, she laughs because again, changing it to from fuck to Buick is I know it's not Tarantino level, but
But no,
I
it's
would not be able to look at fuck and turn it to Buick, so I thought that was pretty, incredibly amazing in
it
that
just
part.
makes me laugh because it's the owner doing it. That's
Well,
what
I
makes
well,
me
I
laugh.
mean, again, magic marker isn't gonna co I mean, it's
Yeah, but it just cracked me up.
I know.
Um, and then we see Jeff Healey and his band playing. You see people throwing beverages at him because they want him to change it. Zoe kind of touched this on this earlier. People getting mad about music. You see a guy dancing shirtless
Oh,
with
yeah.
a girl. And as Dalton approaches the double deuce, a group of bikers are looking at his Mercedes and ask him, "Hey, hotshot, what's wrong with the Detroit cars?" Which I thought was hilarious. We see the introduction of Morgan, the bouncer, just beating the shit out of people and throwing them out. My favorite part, he doesn't care if you're like not even part of the fight. He just throws the guy into you,
I
like
know.
knocks you over. We see the introduction of Denise with the famous line, "Nipple to nipple." He gets punched and thrown out. We have the bar fight, which I thought was hilarious, where this guy's trying to get another guy to give him $20 to kiss his wife's breasts, and the guy's just touching her breast, and he's like, "We are you gonna kiss me or not?" He's like, "I can't." He's like, "What do you mean you can't?" He's like, "I don't got $20." And then they start fight he slaps the shit out of him, they start fighting, and then everybody just starts fighting, and Dalton's just standing there watching. And when he goes in to meet the boss calls him in while they're fighting, he goes in to talk to him, let him know what's up, and while he's leaving, they're asking him, "Are you gonna help us or what?" And he's like, "We'll see." And he walks out, and and they ask, the Jeff, Healey dialogue makes me laugh a lot too, because Morgan asks him, "Tell me about him." And he's like, "You fuck with him, he'll seal your fate."
Right.
He's like, "He hasn't shown me shit." Which is a great line. Then we see the why Dalton has a shitty car. He goes and buys an old one from somebody else because he knows it's gonna be damaged. And then we see him, renting out his place with Emmett, which is another funny, like, dialogue. The introduction of the great Brad Wesley as he scares away his horses on his helicopter and does his famous smile because he loves just fucking with that poor old man. And that little, barn he had, little apartment setup was pretty nice.
Real nice, beautiful. Often think a lot of
Mhm.
living up in there and just really great. But then again, he didn't have any electricity. Not that you would need it, but we wouldn't be able to do a show there.
I don't know, he did have it though, because doesn't he turn off the lights and turn them on? Like, there's parts where he's reading
I
books.
guess you're right. I guess I never thought of that. He does.
Yeah.
You're right. He
Yeah,
does.
I don't think he has air, but I don't think you really care, but I think he says and then, like, he was charging, like, $75 a month or
Yeah,
something
well,
like
that was
that.
the good part. I'd sleep with no electricity for 75, in that beautiful locale.
Yeah, so that it's a cool little introduction of him.
You don't need heat when you got Kelly Lynch staying with you up there in the
Yeah, that's true. We then cut to, the kinda the scoping of the bar, watch as Stoughton's watching people there. He's kinda, like, just seeing what's going on. He sees a, waitress selling drugs. He sees the, people like, you know, Morgan just being out of control in terms of being a bouncer, and he kinda meets the staff, and he tells them, you know, "You're fired for we don't sell drugs here." And he tells Morgan, "You're fired. You don't have the, basically
temperament. The
temperament for the
temperament.
trade." And he goes, "Well, what am I supposed to do, asshole?" And he goes, "There's always barber college," which cracks me up. He does the great lines where he says, "What if somebody calls my mother, was he a whore?" He's like, "Is she?"
Yeah, oh yeah.
Which shows and then we get the nice, like, the be nice, monologue. And he has 3 rules: never underestimate your opponent, expect the unexpected, never fight in a bar unless it's expected, unless it's, necessary, and be nice until it's time not to be nice. And this whole terminology and theory and philosophy, the 2015, the New York Post exclusively reported that the lecture portions of the mandatory 3-day retraining course for cops were revamped with Roadhouse as a training tool. That just shows that this was good. Yes, we're gonna get to that in a second. Jack skimming by the bartender. we didn't see him take over, and this is when he tells them he will be the cooler, you'll be the bouncers. He'll tell you what to do, and you got his back, and watch everybody else's, and we'll go from there. So he's incorporating this philosophy to this team, what they need to do. And when this first night there, he sees Pat, the bartender, skimming money, and this is and 26 minutes into the film, we see him get physical as a guy pulls a knife on a guy and he slams his head into the table, breaks the table, and the line is, "Did you fucking see that?" At the end of the night, we see Pat McGurn, the bartender, get fired, and he gives the ultimatum, "Or is this good with you too?" As he tells the owner, and the owner says, "It's good with me." So we know there's some little backstory there with him firing. We then cut to probably one of the most hilarious dance scenes, the Wesley pool party.
Great scene.
He sees he walks out, he touches one of his henchmen's faces as he's doing this horrible dance and says, "Isn't she cute?" to Denise, and she laughs and says yes.
Got
We
Bob
see
Seger playing Blue Monday in the background. Saturday morning.
Yep, we see that Morgan has now working for Brad Wesley as he's throwing in women into the pool and getting ready to jump in.
My
So now it's
dream bad guy right there. That's so amazing.
Yes, and then Dalton gets distracted. He was reading the book Legends of the Fall, and he sees this party. He turns off his lights to watch it, which I thought was pretty funny. So that's kind of like we're getting like little pieces of Wesley. And I think it's kind of funny and cool how they gradually introduce him into the film. We find out next morning in a breakfast scene, which I thought was kind of funny, how the girl comes to his Carrie Mae comes to his house with breakfast and he's nude. And she goes, "Oh my God," he's putting his pants on. But we find out that McGurn is actually Wesley's nephew.
You shouldn't have done that.
Yeah. She tells him, "You shouldn't have done that." And he tells him why. And she says that he was Wesley's nephew, which is give us another, the plot thickens, as I say. The next scene is where we find like the real hardcore introduction of Brad Wesley.
Amazing.
He's driving on the road, listening to Life Could Be a Dream, basically going between both lanes. He almost hits Dalton while he's driving, which cracks me up. And he just doesn't give a shit. He just
my favorite is Dalton's face after he almost hits him. He's like,
yeah,
his mullet goes fly. He's like, what the frick?
yeah, and Wesley's just singing and dancing, and we see him doing that as a man who doesn't care, and you can tell he doesn't give two shits. He's above the law, which he basically shown there. And then we see the introduction of Uncle Red, who was played by Red Webster, and the introduction of Jimmy, who is Brad Wesley's henchman. Like I said, Red West plays the auto parts dealer, and Rowdy Harrington found him to be a fascinating guy. He had been good friends with Elvis. He knew martial arts, and he worked as Presley's bodyguard at times. And since they were filming in kind of a Western style, he wanted to have a guy associated with Elvis, because Elvis is mentioned in the film a lot, even by Wesley when he tells Jeff Healey, "Elvis plays something with balls." So that's kind of cool. Again, he is a member of the Memphis Mafia, is what they call them, which I thought was funny. Jack says, "If I was a girl, my name would have been Denise." It's a fun fact. Would you have been a male woman though, Jack? That's the real question. So as we see, Brad Wesley's introduced, he comes into Red's auto store, and we see that Red's demeanor changes. And I love the line. He's like, "Good morning today, huh, Red?" He's like, "It was."
I was going to actually say that same thing. Right there. It's perfect.
Yeah.
It's a great line.
And then this film cuts to where the cheesiness of the film, as it shows, Emmett looking at Swayze's Mercedes underneath the tarp he has, and that music plays, and then you see Swayze outside shirtless doing Tai Chi, being watched by Wesley from across the lake, which I thought was hilarious.
There's a lot going on right there. Me and Katie have talked about, because it's not just Wesley watching them. Emmett, what do you call it's watching them too? The guy who owns the farm, Emmett. Yeah,
Emmett.
He's watching him, and he's like got this staring at him, and it's like, it's not staring like, oh wow, he knows karate. It's almost like, wow. Just really, really great scene.
And the music that plays, like,
oh yeah,
Yeah, it's
You
like
know,
a
but come on, man. You being the big martial artist fan that you are, I mean, look at those moves Swayze was doing right there, man.
yeah, Tai Chi, like
Yeah, there we go.
tearing it up, man, right there. We then cut to a scene where we're back at the bar and we see Tinker, the introduction of Tinker and Pat and O'Connor, who are basically trying to strong arm the owner, telling him he can't fire Pat McGurk because again, he is a nephew of Brad Wesley. And then, they call in Dalton in there and they threaten him saying that if he's not hired back, they will cut off the liquor supply as Wesley runs the liquor supply delivery in the area. They get into a fight where McGirt tells him he's a chicken dick, which was a totally improvised line, and he cuts him, and then eventually gets roundhouse kicks to back out a window.
I like Swayze right here too. He's like, he's like, that's all you're gonna need to know. He's like, no, I'm gonna have to need a little know more than that. Like the way he says it to him,
Yeah.
and then they just start punching. Great
Yeah.
scene.
Yeah, and also I love the fact when Tinker takes out his knife, how he takes it out. He's like, like the way he pulls it out, and then he punches the owner in his stomach, and like O'Connor gets messed up in here, man. Like Swayze, elbows him, forearm elbows him in the face, and like to the point where like he just basically like there's a big pile of bricks about to go down. He just pushes him over, and he tells him get out of here, and they carry him out. That fight scene is. I love that fight scene because he kicks him out the window. It's totally 80s to me. It's like, but cheesy galore. Like I love it. Getting kicked out the window and then getting his ass kicked in front of everybody watching. And then you see the other bouncers just come by, just pick up people to take him out, which I loved. We then see him transition to the meeting of Doc. And we find there that Dalton has a degree in philosophy from NYU as he carries around his medical records. Again, in this scene, Doc was supposed to sew him up, but it got changed to stapling. So Kelly Lynch basically, she overprepared for a job. And then he says the famous line, "Pain don't hurt." So what do you think of that whole little trend, like "pain don't hurt" line?
Again, it makes for another great line for the movie. And again, one thing we'd always talk about is, do you carry around your medical records with you like in a folder? I know he's a bouncer, but like still got my file here. And this is actually, you can see on the file his first name
is John, right?
Which they don't really say that before this point. Very, I think it's again, what I always loved about this movie is the scene, like it almost is like a play. There's only like 6 scenes. Like there's the bar, there's the hospital room. You never actually see any driving between any of these places. So like in my head, it's just like a hospital, Red's place, the bar, and then the barn and Wesley. Like you don't see anything else in this whole movie besides those locales, like a town, more houses. Where's everybody live? That's why I like the movie. It's very simple.
Yes, very, very simple. We then cut to Wesley's henchmen and we see O'Connor. We see them in a monster truck, which is actually a Bigfoot's number 7, which I just learned today. I'm a huge fan of Bigfoot. But yeah, Bigfoot number 7 monster truck, which Tinker drives, which is totally fitting for him because he's like 450 pounds. No, there isn't a bookstore in this one.
No bookstore.
But you then you see the dialogue between Brad Wesley. Oh, I love that scene. Brad Wesley and O'Connor, when he's like, "You're weak, O'Connor," and after he like kicks him in the nuts,
you're a bleeder.
Yeah, and he punches him in the face, and then he tells him, "Don't worry, because I like you." As he gets up, and then he kicks him in the nuts and says, "Get this piece of shit out of here."
Get this piece of shit out of here.
Yeah, and I love the way his henchmen just laugh.
Oh yeah.
We also find that this transitions into them at going to Red's store and destroying it because Red won't pay protection money. We see Dalton pull up and we see them after his windshield had been broken. We see them go and basically destroying his store. And he says, "Easy day" or something like that, or it's like so much fun when you're having works always easy when you're having fun. And like, which always cracks me up. And you go and you see all the oil on the floor, and we find out that Doc is actually Red's niece, which is pretty funny, I guess.
What a coincidence in this town.
Yeah,
that the doc that you went to sew you up happens to be the guy who sold you your hubcaps. Wow, this is great.
Yeah. And, it's just like it's corny, but it's just gels together so well.
It is.
Uh,
It is.
we didn't transition to probably one of the best characters in the film, the arrival of Wade Garrett. And the way we find this out is Wade Garrett pulls up to the Double Deuce while they're getting a liquor shipment. And Dalton goes to the back to get the liquor shipment, and Wesley's men are waiting there. And while they're waiting there,
You want to fight,
Yep.
dickless?
I sure ain't gonna show you my dick.
Love that scene.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite scenes too. Where we see him call Wade, and then we see him ask about Wesley out there, and then eventually Wade comes up for that scene, which I think is probably one of the better scenes in the film. Also, previous to this, if we go back a little bit, I forgot to mention this, but I wanted to mention I put a note for this one. There's a scene where Carrie Ann sings with the band, and me watching it was like, "There's no fucking way that's really her singing," because it looks like it's like lip sync, and it probably is. But reading this, I found out they discovered during production that Kathleen Whitnall, who actually plays Carrie Ann and plays the waitress, could sing, so they incorporated that into her character. It's a nice touch, and director Rowdy Harrington thinks it suggests that those things around Dalton are blossoming along with the changes he has brought to his spa bar. Her singing wasn't great, but I didn't even know it was really her singing.
Knock on wood.
Yeah. We also see Denise hit on Dalton, and the meeting with Wesley at his house. We see that Denise has a black eye due to her hitting on Dalton and pulled away by, Jimmy. And according to Rodney Harrington, Ben Gazzara, for that scene where they go to his house, ate probably 12 eggs while filming it. And he says the famous line there, Tony, J.C. Penney is coming here because of me.
Now, that scene is just really just one of the best.
Photomat here? Christ, J.C. Penney is coming here because of me. You ask anybody, they'll tell you.
Great.
Yeah, that's a total great line. We also see that before the arrival of Wade, the new opening of Double Deuce is made, and the introduction of bartender Ernie, who was played by Keith David. And like you said, Tony, like 95% of his scenes were cut. There was supposed to be an introduction of him being hired, a bar fight with him, breaking things up, and they just basically dwindled down to what it was now. Now, the original film was 3 hours long, and they cut out over an hour. Yeah, over an hour and 10 minutes of it.
We need that cut. That's
Yes.
what I need to find. I did not. That's what we need here.
Yes, and then we see the famous line scene of Doc spending the night. They used padding behind her when she was getting the love making behind the rocks, with the rocks against her. So she said that they put padding there so she wouldn't get hurt. And like you said earlier, according to Kelly Lynch, whenever Bill Murray sees her sex scene with Patrick Swayze on television, he calls her husband, Mitch Glazer, to tease him about it, along with his brothers and other members of SNL calling, which I think is hilarious. We get to the arrival of, Wade, like I said, and then we see, Wade actually meets Doc. And when he meets Doc, he tells him about Dalton, she's a good woman. And reading this, I found that lots of Garrett's scenes were cut as well. His character development was cut.
Yeah, I mean, I could tell that.
Yeah, he has a rose on his arm, and there's a reason for that. It's a person that he loved in the past. He had lover issues, that he screwed up, and they kind of like watered down his character, which that's kind of a shame because Sam Elliott, deserved a little bit better.
Yeah,
But he got to, the fact that Terry Funk told him, "None of your business, Dad."
Yeah, that part's great.
So Wade Garrett's here now. We're all caught up, and we go to Red's store, be exploding. So the exterior shots of the Double Deuce and Red's auto parts were facades, meaning they were built on site. They weren't real places. The barn that Dalton rented was also built on site, and just for the movie, they thought that MGM Studios was burning down when this explosion happened to Red's store, and it cost $25,000 to shoot that scene, and it woke up the neighbors. So that's I like that scene too, but it makes you laugh. He's like, Dalton, Red's store's on fire, and he like runs out. Like, I'm not thinking like, what are you gonna do? You're not a fireman. Like, what the
No, I know.
But of course he thought Red was in there, but he wasn't. And after that scene, we're introduced to the badass Jimmy again with Brad Wesley sitting at the bar. We see him say, "Elvis, play something with balls," which is where they have like this strip dance done by Denise. Now, when I was doing research for this, Julie Michaels, who played Denise, said she was very nervous leading up to this doing this topless table dance scene because she had never performed nude before. On top of that, like it's crazy that her then boyfriend had committed suicide the night before filming. Producers went to her and said, "Do you want to postpone, the shoot?" And she told them no, she'll do it, even though she was an emotional wreck. Now learning that and looking back, like that's kind of fucked up.
That is.
That sucks, man, for anybody to go through that. We see the awesome fighting of Jimmy just beating the shit out of people with a cool pull cue, and then we see him fight against Wade. And I love how Wade, puts his hair back in a ponytail and when he hurts his little fighting stance, and they get into it. And then you want to see the actual Dalton Jimmy fight, but you get a little taste of them trading blows before Wesley shoots a gun in the air and tells them to leave. The next scene shows the townspeople urging Red to go to the FBI. And he's like, "Are you going to go?" And the guy's like, "No." So basically you see how Wesley has this influence over the town, scaring people away. And basically people who cross them, get their stuff damaged, as we see in the next scene of the destroying of the car lot. Like I said, the Bigfoot 7 was used. It was driven by former vice president of Bigfoot 4x4, Jim Kramer. It cost $500,000 to destroy all those cars in the car lot and the car dealership, and it was done in one take. Bigfoot had to be repainted after the scene and went on to crush cars throughout the country and the world after that. So that's kind of cool that Bigfoot was involved in this.
I love. Okay, so back when the auto parts store breaks down and they all meet up, like the townspeople in the apartment, the one guy's like, "You gotta stay, man. You gotta have insurance." And then when the car thing all breaks down, Red turns to him and goes, "You got insurance, ain't you?" Because it's like he said it to him back at the thing, because he was like, Red's like, "I'm out of here, man." And the one guy's like, "You got insurance, like you're gonna stick around." And then when his place went down, Red just looked at him like a smart ass and was like, "Got insurance, ain't you?"
Yeah, Red's got some great one-liners in there, man. Like his one-liners are really good. We then go to a scene where Garrett's getting kind of worried about, Dalton and everything that's going on, and tells him, maybe we should leave the town. It's getting a little too hot here, to where Dalton's training and punching fucking wood and doing all these kickboxing training, and says, "Go, get the fuck out of here." And Garrett responds, "Maybe I should kick your ass." To where he tries to swing at him. Mm-hmm.
Taught me as much as I ever taught you.
I love you, mijo. The greatest dialogue in film history right there, ladies and gentlemen. Garrett leaves. So Wade Garrett is gone for now. And then we have an argument with Doc and Dalton over Brad Wesley, where basically Dalton's telling her he's not afraid of her. And they're outside arguing, and we see the destruction of Emmett's house where it explodes. And he goes and saves Emmett, but he pulls him out in his old man pajamas, like his basically whole full body pajamas, long johns. He pulls him out, and he's alive. He says, "Emmett, are you alive? I'll be all right if you just get off me," which he does. And that's as he saves Emmett. He sees Jimmy in a typical cartoon villain way of driving off in the motorcycle, cackling.
What's great is what's her name, Kelly Lynch, before, because she's like, "You're gonna save him? Who's gonna save you from him?" And then the explosion goes off right after her. Like it was like planned. Like she screams and the explosion literally goes off right after her scream. Yeah. It's perfect.
Yeah, and I just love the fact that Jimmy's driving away cackling.
Oh yeah, he's like,
yeah. So Marsha Artigue had a big fight scene with Jimmy with Patrick Swayze on the the famous fight scene on the beach. And Marshall and Teague initially didn't get along with Swayze, like we said. While the filming their big fight, both men quickly realized they shared a dedication to realistic stunts. They developed so much trust that they improvised a lot when they fought and allowed each other to throw real punches and kicks, which is crazy. When Jimmy Brake swings a log at Dalton, Teague mistakenly thought it was a prop log, but it wasn't. It was a real log, and Swayze was covered in bruises with 2 broken ribs and a busted knee. Now, the busted knee is actually something interesting because Swayze, who already had a banged up knee, was being approached by Joel Silver. Like I said, he directed the Predator series, and he wanted him to play Danny Glover's role in Predator 2. Swayze turned down the role because it was really physical and took a lesser physical role in Ghost. So you can thank Marshall Teague for Patrick Swayze being cast in Ghost. Jack says here, $500,000 for that scene. That's some NASA accounting there. Hey, man, they destroyed a lot of cars in that car dealership, my man. So we go to the big epic fight, Tone, and like everybody's favorite line is, I used to fuck guys like you in jail, which has been parodied on so many things. Marshall Teague told a story that he took his mother to a premiere of the movie, and when the fight scene against Dalton happens and he says the line, I used to fuck guys like you in prison, his mother jumped up and proudly shouted, that's my boy. And the line was actually thought up by Joel Silver, which is kind of funny. So they said Silver had a lot of one-liners that they just used. We see the epic ripping of the throat, which has been talked about on many podcasts. I know Joe Rogan did it on his, where he said that's like his favorite part. He just takes the throat out. You know, they mentioned it throughout the movie, and it happens here. And Kelly Lynch got in trouble because she was caught laughing when this was shot, which I think is hilarious. From there, we see Jimmy's dead, and we see his body get basically just thrown into the river, and it's floating towards Wesley, and you hear Dalton tell him, fuck you. Then we're going into like the end game, or like the final chapter of the film, where we see Wade Garrett come back as we find out that both Wade and Doc have been kidnapped. And he flips a coin, head or tails, to which tails, he says, I'll let you know what it is. We find out Wade is actually released, and he's beating the shit out of him. He tells him, have a beer, I'll be back. Leaves him at the bar. He goes to find Doc, doesn't find her. When he comes back, Wade is dead. And when Wade being stabbed to death with a note saying it was Tails, referring to Wesley flipping a coin, later it was shown that the knife belongs to Ketchum, which is one of the bad guys' henchmen that doesn't really get a lot of film time, but he's in there. And then with the Mercedes, when you see Dalton stuck the knife in as he goes to Wesley's place, where he basically launches his Mercedes into the house to distract them, Ketchum puts the knife back in his holster, which I thought was pretty cool. We then see Dalton basically take out all the henchmen one by one. Again, this scene, we only see him taking out 3 of them, main ones. Like we see Morgan's already out. We see other people on the ground. We just see him and Ketchum fight, and then McGirt gets shot, a knife thrown at him, and he falls over the banister to his death. And then we see
stunt double when he falls. You can see it's totally not him.
Totally not him, yeah.
Great.
It's totally horrible editing, but horrible. It's great.
Yeah.
And then we see Tinker get a fucking polar bear fall on him.
Oh yeah.
Which I thought was hilarious. We do then see the demise of Wesley. And you know what? To be honest with you, when watching this film, I'm like, man, Wesley's kind of old. Like, how are they going to do this film scene? The fight. He actually held his own pretty well.
He did.
He was deranged, older guy. And his death, he just gets blasted by everybody with shotguns. It's just it's probably one of the most random endings to a film I can remember. And the movie's humor is intentional because director Rowdy Harrington said he wanted to make the fights like a Keystone Cops melee. And he kind of did that, where Wesley just gets completely blown away. The sheriff comes in, who had a larger role in the original film, until they cut his part. And they basically hide, the way they take away the shotguns, and they hide it and say, oh, he was like that when we found them. And that's just not how the law works.
No, not at all.
And Tinker says a bear fell on him, and then they cut to him and Doc in the water, and the credits roll. And that's good. That's Roadhouse.
Greatest part there at the end is when they're in the water and the credits roll and the camera pans back. Jeff's just like playing guitar in the grass by himself while they're nude swimming, which is would me and my wife be swimming nude while the blind, well, I mean, he's blind, but he's playing guitar up in the grass. I don't know.
It's just like I said, it's like one of the most random endings.
Very random.
To a film. And yet, if you guys are watching us on YouTube, you see the screenshot of Tinker basically saying, "A bear fell on me."
Bear fell on me.
Yeah, it's just so random. Exploding car, like editing with the stuff. It totally was, Jack. That's a great call out because if you watch the film Casino, when Robert De Niro's character gets into the car, you could totally tell it's a dummy when they edit to exploding. Yeah, it was like that when he fell over the banister. But that's Roadhouse. That's the film breakdown. Tone, I think the cheesiness adds to the nostalgia and love of the film.
That's it. Couldn't say it better.
Like, it's so bad, it's good. And I think that it's just like, it's lightning in a bottle for it. I think for it, it's just so bad, it's good. How about you want to hear some fan theories?
Let's go through them. Let's do it.
Okay, my man, let's go into our fan theories.
You know that fat cocksucker says I look like the Shah of Iran?
Who does? Tony. I never got that at all.
So how was this film perceived? Well, Roadhouse is a Western and is a little different than classics such as Shane or Pale Rider. But because it is set in a seedy tavern and the characters don't look like Clint Eastwood or John Wayne, it never had a chance for critical gravitas. Siskel and Ebert, the great reviewers of movies, said Roadhouse is not a good movie. That's for sure, said Roger Ebert. Many, many years back on a show with Gene Siskel. Siskel chimed in and said, "It's so out there, it's so cartoon-like." They both gave it thumbs down. Almost needless to say, audience and critics at the same time didn't really get it, is what Joel Silver said. Roadhouse was the lull between Die Hard and Lethal Weapon 2. The initial box office take was modest, and the reviews were horrendous. Gene Siskel said of Swayze, "A young star has sold himself to become a pinup boy." Peter Travers of Rolling Stone called Roadhouse brutal and sexist and stupid. Variety's unnamed reviewer said it was ill-conceived and unevenly executed. Its vigilante justice, lawlessness, and wanton violence feel ludicrous in a modern setting. Roadhouse is considered a Western, or at least a modern day one, and it had a budget of $15 million and a box office of $61 million, so it did have a pretty modest return. It gained a lot more from video rentals and television play, and like I said earlier, it was one of the most watched and streamed films in 2020 and 2021 during the pandemic. I think the reason that it got bombed so bad made people want to watch it. You know, we're Sam Reeves to talk about Geely. Everybody talks about Geely, how bad it is, but people watched it because they want to see how bad it was.
That's true.
And I think it's just a film that was just ahead of its time in terms of cheesiness. Wasn't supposed to be taken seriously like most other films. Had a great soundtrack, and of course, it's not going to be a hit with the critics, but it was entertaining.
It's true.
And that's all that matters. And what I mean? Like, you can. I love Siskel and Ebert. I love Roger Ebert. Like, he's one of my favorite people to read. Also Richard Roper. With the reviews. But sometimes critics don't like those comedic films. Like, I know they hated Ace Ventura. I know they hated just films like that. Just aren't the critically acclaimed films, and this just wasn't one of them. That wasn't going to get Oscars, even though Brad Wesley should have been nominated as the most evil villain ever. But it's what happens, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But going to fan theories, Tone. Now, I glossed over these, so I'm gonna read you 2 fan theories. Okay. Family Guy rekindled the Roadhouse. Yes, it did. Totally did, Jack. It's been parodied everywhere. There's been a sequel to the film, a directed sequel called Last Call, which was fucking horrible. And there's been a remake, which is made, and it's okay, but not my cup of tea, but like people seem to love it. But here's one of the theories. So one of the theories from Reddit, the user's name was deleted, and then I wonder why, but he says Next of Kin, the film 1989 film, Next of Kin is a prequel to Roadhouse. He goes, everyone knows, everyone loves Roadhouse. The story of Dalton, the professional bouncer for hire, and how we know he regrets his past, killing a man who threatened him. And Dalton turns to Eastern mysticalism. He spelled that mysticalism as I'm reading it, to center his chi and spirit. He needs to center his spirit because his brother died in Next of Kin. In the movie Next of Kin in 1989, Patrick Swayze plays a Chicago cop called Truman Gates. After the Next of Kin, Truman leaves Chicago to study in New York City and become Dalton. I believe at the end of Next of Kin, Truman retires from the police force and becomes a bouncer to be Dalton. What do you think about that?
Stretch, but I love Next of Kin. I love always doing these, so sure, I could buy that one. But is it plausible? He's a really nice guy in Next of Kin. He'd really have to, something bad would have to happen in between that.
Actually, his brother's in it, right? Jack. Let's see. So that's one theory. Okay. That one's like really far stretched for me. We now see another critical theory here from Reddit, and the guy retracted his name on this one. He says Patrick Swayze's character in Roadhouse has poor morals and is essentially a bad character. He's not the good guy. He's no better than Brad Wesley. He opens by saying Roadhouse. You have to have seen Roadhouse to be able to argue here. Putting that out there to everybody reading his post. Everybody's like, oh, Patrick, such a great guy in the movie. He's a nice cooler that only wants to fight when he has to. And he's a philosopher and he's so romantic. No, no, no. Patrick plays a sleazy, bloodthirsty dirtbag in this film. You have to read between the lines. First of all, Patrick's all about the bucks. He's not loyal. He leaves his employer for new employer, no notice, and immediately latches on to the owner of the Double Deuce. He demands a ridiculous amount of money and demands complete control to run the show. He's a nut job, greedy control freak. Patrick has poor people skills with Brad Wesley. Most of all, the trouble in the entire movie, all the murders, could have been prevented with some friendly people skills, a little bit of a tactic. When Patrick goes over there, he insults Brad Wesley in his own home, basically spits in his face. Then Patrick bangs the girl Brad Wesley likes, the blonde the bombshell nurse, on the barn right across from the pond where he knows Brad Wesley can see. And yeah, in the movie, it's kind of weird that Brad Wesley's watching him do it, which is... and the nurse knows it too. She's actually probably the worst person in the entire movie. When Patrick kills the bad mullet man, Brad Wesley's minion, that's what he wrote here. The bad mullet man, I'm guessing he's referring to Jimmy.
Yes.
Wesley's minion. He doesn't essentially have to. If you watch the scene closely, Patrick kicks the gun out of his hand and disables Mullet Man. He then leans over and pauses for a minute before ripping his throat out. The gun is out of the picture at this point. Patrick could have simply detained him. Instead, he throat rips him and uses the corpse as a prop to intimidate Brad Wesley. Patrick finishes out the film by going on his famous killing spree when he attacks Brad Wesley's home. He kills like 4 or 5 guys, throws throat punches, snap necks, knives, etc. All over one crusty drifter that failed to defend himself. Patrick goes nuts and becomes a murdering lunatic. In the end, Patrick is no different than Brad Wesley. It's all about ego and never backing down. He's a hothead full of lust, aggressive in the power struggle that premeditates the film. He's not a good guy at all. Change my view.
That's good. That's good stuff right there.
That was great. And Jack comes out and says, before I forget, we could do something similar to this with Ferris Bueller being a bad friend and actually a jagoff. Yeah, there's a lot of theories for that too, Jack. When we do a Ferris Bueller episode down the road, I will bring up those theories. Like, they also say he's a serial killer, which I think is pretty funny too. So those are two fan theories and fan takes. I think the second one's probably because I don't know if it's satire or not, but It was pretty hilarious. The guy, how he broke it down and just
That was good.
yeah. So, any closing thoughts on the film, Tone?
Great movie. Amazing, amazing, amazing one-liners, throughout this whole entire movie.
I got married to an ugly woman. Don't ever do that. It just takes the energy right out of you. She left me, though. Found somebody even uglier than she was. That's life. Who can explain it?
Red, great, great, great character. Just an awesome movie. Just, again, I like it because, again, it takes the edge off of some of the more serious, more awesome movies that we talked about, like during Oscar season and stuff like that. So, great movie.
Yeah, definitely. It's not to be taken seriously. It's a fun movie.
Yeah.
Very cheesy, but fun.
Yeah.
So that's our Roadhouse breakdown. Yeah, my buddy Lynn Brenner had a small drunken conversation about the Ferris thing. I miss him. Yeah, Lynn was a good guy. I used to love listening to him. He's missed. That's our Roadhouse breakdown. I was a little lengthy. Shout out to Father Zoe for doing his Roadhouse remake breakdown. I always love when Zoe can basically shoot from the hip and go off. He gives some good stuff. Let us know what you think of the film at the show pod on Twitters or in the comments below on the YouTube channel. With that, Tone, let's transition. I know we're running a little long on this one, but let's go into what is coming soon.
Let's get ready to rumble!
Coming soon.
Próximamente.
Coming soon.
Coming soon.
So what we got coming soon, my friend?
We are going to go through the classics, Ghostbusters and Ghostbusters 2, because earlier you brought up the new one that just came out. So let's go back to a couple of the classics.
Yes, and for this review, we're not going to do two big deep dives for them. We're going to go through the development of each, and then we'll go into some of our favorite scenes for the film breakdown. So it will not be like a 5-hour long podcast. So we'll be doing that. Which I'm really looking forward to. I really enjoy the first two Ghostbusters. I'm a huge nerd of them, a fan of all of them. But the first two are like the classics, man. And it's nice to go back, especially with the new one coming out. I'm really looking forward to that one.
Be awesome. Vigo.
Yes, Vigo the Corinthian. But Tone, let's get into the Sugar Baggies pick of the week, my man.
Let's do it.
The Sugar Baggies soundtrack pick of the week.
Tonight, so many great songs appear in the Sopranos television show. So many have just made my whole entire day. This clip I'm going to play you right now. This is a lot of people talk about the Sopranos for different reasons. This is the reason why I love the Sopranos, is the way they were able to line up the music with the scene.
Where you gonna go, huh? Where you gonna go? Motherfucker!
That whole scene lined up with Rock the Casbah is just amazing. There's another scene where he's coming up the driveway singing Dirty Work by Steely Dan, and she's throwing his clothes out his window. There's another scene where he falls asleep listening to Dark Side of the Moon. Just so many great, and the soundtrack itself that they put out, some great stuff on there by R.L. Burnside. It's bad, just really awesome. Always enjoy the music in the Sopranos. Just decided tonight that's what we're going to showcase. So thank you very much for letting me do that, everybody.
No, for sure, man. Just like a little bit off that, the Dirty Work, song when he plays it, and he goes, "You're not my dirty work."
Yeah,
yeah. And people like have memed that to stuff, And the crazy thing is that Chase, everybody knows Alabama 3 for Woke Up This Morning is the theme song. David Chase never really wanted a theme song for The Sopranos. He wanted to have different music played for each episode, but the studio told him they have to have something consistent. So that's why you have Alabama 3 for intro, and then every episode ends with a different song. My favorite one is the Rolling Stones, Keith Richards at the end of season 2 when they kill Big Puss, and they played the Rolling Stones song over it, "What the Ocean of Jersey." it's probably one of my favorite like scenes from the series.
Oh yeah, great.
David Chase is like phenomenal in the way he shoots things and the way he writes things, especially that series. And it's still, I don't care what anybody says, the best, series ever made in my opinion.
It's great.
But yeah, awesome pick, Tone. Great tunes on those.
Thank you.
So that is our show. But before we go, today we had some unfortunate news, Tone. Oscar winner and legendary actor Louis Gossett Jr. passed away at the age of 87 years old. If you're listening to this, it was on March 29th. He passed. My first film seeing Louis Gossett Jr. in was in, the movie Toy Soldiers with Sean Astin. And then I went back and watched, Iron Eagle, and I watched Officer and Gentleman. And then he's in one of my favorite films of all time, Digstown. I know Beef Loaf gave a little nice tribute to him.
You ever see Enemy Mine?
Yes, I've seen Enemy Mine. He's just one of those actors that he's in, like, he's kind of like one of those character actors that just happens to appear in a lot of movies, like a Steve Buscemi or an Ozzie Davis. Like he was like just like small roles or even the major roles, but he always knocked it out of the park no matter what he played in. One of my favorites, and it's very sad, that the people we grew up watching are, passing on as they get older.
Sure is.
What was the first film you saw him in, Tom?
Blue Chips, Enemy Mine.
Blue Chips.
Again, I'm a big core sci-fi fan, and him playing the creature in Enemy Mine with a bearded Dennis Quaid blew my wig back, when I first saw it. But Officer and a Gentleman, he's great. Iron Eagle. I mean, so many that when you hear of his passing and you look up his career, you're like, shit, man, this sucks.
Yeah. So awesome job, by in his acting career. Just unfortunately he passed away. But another legend goes, and he will continue to be live on though with in his memory, with his performances, and prayers to his family. So that's our show for tonight, guys. Thank you so much for listening to us. I know it was a long one. Be sure to check out our YouTube at Statistic Penguin Studios on YouTube. If you're listening to this in audio, and watch some of the videos there. Tony's been putting up some great stuff with toy reviews, lost toy reviews, little mini reviews, video Hollywood stories, which I think are hilarious when he does them. That I love, and we have the Hookup on Music every Wednesday at 7:00 live. So be sure to check him out there for that as well. And it's getting drafty in here, which we'll be doing a show the 2nd. And they just did a baseball draft with Herb Lawrence and Josh Nelson. That was very, very good. And we're very close to the 3,000 watch hours category. So
awesome.
If you guys can push this up over the limit, that'd be kind of helpful. But
thank you everybody out there.
Thank you everybody for watching. Big shout out to Father Zoe for coming back on and giving his review of the Roadhouse. We would definitely have him on again. And thank you guys for watching, and have a great night.
Well, what are all these people doing here? Drinking and having a good time. That's why we're here. You're too stupid to have a good time.
Well, we weren't too stupid to have a good time tonight, my friend. We had a great time.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you, everybody, for joining us tonight.
Have a good night, everyone.
Thanks for listening to the At the Show podcast, a Sadistic Penguin Studios production.
Game over, man. It's game over. What the fuck are we gonna do now? What are we gonna do?
Maybe we could build a fire, sing a couple of songs, huh? Why don't we try that?